Chapter 1319. Sujin turned around and was speechless. The Monkey King smiled and said, "Go and take a break. Why do you have to bully a little girl?" Wukong said to Yuan Yu, "You and I dared to make a big fuss because you didn't care about the life and death of the demon spirits. You just wanted to find an excuse to kill them. There is nothing in this world that we care about. It doesn't matter how many people die. Naturally, we are arrogant and presumptuous. She's just a little girl. I don't know how many things in this world she can't bear to let go of. What kind of troublemaker are you using to threaten her?" Wukong pointed at Yuan Yu and said with a grin, "You brat, your demonic nature is deep." Yuan Yu laughed and said, "Well said. I don't care about anything. In my era, even the heavenly court has collapsed. The underworld has been destroyed. Are you afraid that it will come after you?" On the bridge of helplessness, a tattered flag with a black base and red edges rose slowly from the other side of the bridge. The flag was very old. The black flag was faintly mottled with blood rust. An ancient totem was written on the flag. The totem of the ancient witch cult was written before Sangjia created the characters. It was both a character and a totem. It was half pictographic and half freehand brushwork. The chilly wind of the netherworld blew across the flag, and a long streamer fluttered. As the ancient and somewhat tattered flag rose slowly from the other side of the bridge of helplessness, the ghost god holding the flag was revealed. It was a witch god. His eyes were emitting green flames that were dozens of feet long. His face was tattooed with mysterious witchcraft characters. 2 curved horns were on the back of his head. His face looked like a combination of a human and a beast. His fangs and the decorations on his armor were exaggerated. It was as if he had extracted the most barbaric and ferocious side of the murderers in the prehistoric times. Joe, that was probably the meaning of the runes on the blood-rusted black flag. It depicted a god holding a heavenly weapon who was about to chop down. The original meaning of the shaman script was to use a knife and an axe to chop wood, and then use a knife and an axe to chop a human into 2 halves. Then, the body would be beheaded, and the body would be executed with extreme punishment. In some remote shaman scripts, it was used to represent the creation of heaven and earth by the great god Pangu. Therefore, it also had the meaning of pioneering, unprecedented, and new. The totem of the Zhou character was a sorcerer god holding a giant axe. Therefore, it was used as a totem by the Xingtian Grand Wizard tribe, which was under the command of the Hutu Grand Wizard. It meant to open up, to split, and by extension, to split wood, to split sacrificial offerings, and to split human sacrifices. In the end, it was regarded as a variant of punishment and became one of the dozens of totems of the Xingtian tribe. But it also represents the heavenly stem in astronomy. Monkey King looked at the runes and said, "I see. No wonder it's called the Old Chi of the 6 heavens. It's not welcomed by the majority of the celestial heavens, and had no choice but to form an alliance with celestial Emperor Ziyang." Shuetu King was confused. He scratched his half-bald head and asked, "Isn't this the war flag of the Yin celestial palace of Zhouju? It's normal to use the word Zhou. What do you know?" Monkey King scolded him and explained, "The shaman script Zhou is a variant of the shaman script Xing, which became the shaman script Xing, which then became the shaman script Zhou. The shaman script Xin is one of the most ancient and greatest scripts of the shaman race. Its shape is an axe, and the totem it represents is Panga's axe. It's the totem that the 12 grand wizard tribes worship together. The Xin is the axe. The shaman script Xing is beside the shaman script Xin, and a deity holding the Xin axe was added. This originally represented the Xingtian shaman, who held the axe on behalf of the great god Pangu. When the Monkey King mentioned the Xingtian shaman, Shui Tu and Wu Sheng shuddered. They stuttered, "Could the great Xingtian god be behind the Yin celestial palace of Zhouju?" The 2 of them exchanged glances, feeling a little uneasy. If the war god of the mystic door was lord of purity and magic, the war god of the demon race was great sage Go Chun, and the war god of the dragon race was Great Ing Long, then the Xingtian god was the war god of the shaman race. He killed countless gods during the great war of shaman and demon, and countless innate gods died under his axe. In the end, he even swung his axe at the Emperor Heaven for Lady Hutu. In the end, he was defeated by the Emperor Heaven. His head was chopped off, but he continued to fight with anger. It was not until the Emperor Heaven ordered his men to split Changyang Mountain and seal his head that he was defeated. What kind of person was Celestial Emperor? He dared to wave his axe at him. Even though he was defeated, he was still proud. Even Xing Tian, who was always determined, was a fierce god of war in front of Celestial Emperor. Among the mediocre people in the celestial heavens, how many imperial emperors and great gods could stand high and mighty in front of Xing Tian and not bat an eyelid? They were merely two little demon monarchs of the diabolism. It was normal for them to be moved. Even if they were afraid, it would not be shameful. Xuetu and Wu Sheng thought to themselves in fear. The Monkey King shook his head and said, "The Yin celestial palace of Zhouju is not worthy to be associated with the Xingtian." The later Wu language Xing was changed to the Wu language Zhou to highlight the cruel side of it. It means that in the sacrificial ceremony, one chopped human animals with a giant axe or chopped enemies with a giant axe. In the most ancient holy kingdom of the human tribe in the untainted land, there was an ancient human emperor. After his death, he was given this title to show that he was cruel and bloodthirsty, and to describe his powerful and cruel side. In the ancient untainted land, the witchcraft was the orthodox religion and worshipped the sorcerer god. The emperor of the untainted land was named after the heavenly stem. The original title of the emperor happened to be the original form of the Wu language, Xin. King Zhou. Bai Suzhen's expression changed. Even Yuan Yu was slightly moved. King Zhou, in the ancient war of deification, in order to replace the stars originally controlled by the primitive demon court, he cleaned up the complicated forces in the untainted land. He killed the immortals of the three religions of the untainted land and took them as gods. He forcibly took back the backbone of the unstable forces in the untainted land to the heavenly court. Later, he was gradually cleaned out. Isn't King Zhou suppressed in the Tianqi star? It's not King Zhou. The Monkey King stared at the army of ghosts and deities that gradually appeared at the end of the bridge of helplessness and sneered, but it has something to do with King Zhou. The Wu tribe is the ancestor god of the human tribe. When the heavenly court was newly established in the Xia and Shang divine dynasties, the Emperor of Heaven had not cleaned up the witchcraft yet. Therefore, the witchcraft was the orthodox religion in the untainted land. Both dynasties worshipped the sorcerer god. Humans and sorcerers were mixed together, and the law of heaven was not clear. At that time, the influence of the sorcerer god in the heavenly court had not been cleaned up, let alone the untainted land. To put it bluntly, the Emperor of Heaven himself was the ancestor of Sorcerer Dijiang. The bloodline of Dijiang was the orthodox religion of the five emperors. How could the remnants of the Wu tribe in the human tribe be cleaned up? No matter in the Xia and Shang divine dynasties, the bloodline of the emperors was the descendant of the Emperor of Heaven, the Son of Heaven. If he was not the bloodline of the Emperor of Heaven, how could he be called the Son of Heaven? Wasn't Emperor Zhuanxu the Son of Heaven in the beginning? The Wu tribe arose in the untainted land and ruled the human world. The bloodline was originally passed down in the untainted land. Later, the demon court that ruled the heaven realm was destroyed. The untainted land and the Wu tribe merged. The ancestor of Sorcerer Dijiang was reincarnated into the human tribe. He was reincarnated in the Dijiang tribe and assimilated into the Yu Xiong tribe of the human tribe. Many great sorcerers' bloodlines were mixed into the human tribe. The bloodline of Dijiang of the Yu Xiong tribe was followed by the Emperor of Heaven. He attacked the Hutu, Gonggong, Zhurong, and other tribes and became the orthodox religion of the human tribe. The bloodline of the Emperor of Heaven was the Son of Heaven in the untainted land. Xia Qi, the Son of Heaven, established the divine kingdom. Later, Tang of Shang destroyed Xia and established the Great Shang dynasty. Both Xia and Shang were supported by the five emperors who were the direct descendants of the Emperor of Heaven in the heavenly court. The ancestor of the Xia dynasty was King Yu, the grandson of Zhuanxu. The Great Shang dynasty was the descendant of Emperor Ku, the son of the mystic bird. The sorcerer god was the orthodox religion of the human tribe. However, the Emperor of Heaven did not ascend the throne as the ancestor of Sorcerer Dijiang. Instead, he became a human. This explains some problems. Later, the Great Shang dynasty worshipped ghosts and gods and became the dynasty where ghosts and gods ruled over the human tribe. The king of Shang thought that he was a god and not a human. The ghosts and gods enjoyed the human tribe as food. How could the Emperor of Heaven tolerate this? Therefore, the God Conferment battle was not only a civil war between the mystic door, but also a calamity where the subjects of the Emperor of Heaven, the new god of the heavenly court, cleaned up the old sorcerer gods, and the human tribe destroyed the ghosts and gods. The Emperor of Heaven established a new law of the heavenly court. The ghosts and gods of the Wu tribe are the old Qi of the six heavens. The new god of the heavenly court is the righteous Qi of the three heavens and the nine heavens. The six heavens of Rahu were the ghosts and gods of the great Shang dynasty when it ruled the untainted land. In the end, they were killed by the heavenly court during the God Conferment tribulation of the six heavens. They were the ancient sorcerer gods, the ghosts and gods worshipped during the Xia and Shang dynasties. They were also the ancestors of the human tribe who called themselves the God tribe in the underworld during the Xia and Shang dynasties. They were even the remaining forces of the two divine dynasties in the Yin Earth. The Shuetu kings said faintly. Under the flag of the six heavens of Rahu, countless ghosts and gods were lined up neatly. They wore bronze armor full of saber wounds and arrow wounds. They were densely packed and carried an ancient aura. This was the army of ghosts and gods of the Yin Shang dynasty. Zhang Liang's army of ghosts and gods of the past was like a joke in front of this real army of the divine dynasty. During the Yin Shang dynasty, the direct tribes of the archaic demon court that retained great power were like stray dogs in front of this army of ghosts and gods. The powerful tribes that the archaic demon court had sent to the untainted land to fight against the sorcerer tribe were not wiped out by the sorcerer tribe after the defeat of the divine dynasty. Instead, they were beaten up by the human divine dynasty that merged with the sorcerer tribe. These demon tribes later became the ancestors of demons and barbarians. The barbarians were those who had no choice but to become humans. Although they still retained some of the characteristics of the demon tribe, they were actually a more primitive and inferior human tribe. A demon with a human face and a bird's body spread his wings and flew above Yuan Yu and the others. He said coldly, "The demon barbarian woman, Bai Sujin, assassinated the crown prince, despised the heaven, and violated the law of heaven. Her sin is unforgivable. If she dares to offend the power of the underworld again, she will be punished by the demons and gods. With the power of the heaven and the underworld, we will eliminate the rebellious demons and barbarians in the world." And the demon monkey king, "Do you know your sin?" The monkey king picked his ears and said with a cheeky smile, "I don't know. Can you tell me?" "Lowly demons and barbarians. We are lowly, but Tung Wang Kung did not abandon us and gave you a way out. But you have the hearts of wolves and the lungs of dogs, and the hearts of beasts cannot be moved. You have poisons, and you eat the stench of fish. The demon clan oppresses the heavens, and you are extremely perverted and filthy. Wild foxes occupy the throne, and monkeys are crowned in the imperial court. Demon king, how can you be called a great sage? You even helped the demon Bai Sujin to assassinate the crown prince of the heaven. You don't know your place. You are disgraceful. Accept your death and the pain of hell. If you continue to be stubborn, I will make you abandon your body and let your soul dissipate." The flying scythe god general sneered, "This flying scythe god? I will let you die knowing that you will die." The blood-soaked demon lord looked back to see how Wukong would react. He saw Wukong pick out his ear and pull out a bowl-sized rod from his ear. With a wave of his hand, the rod transformed into millions of metal rods that streaked across the sky like shadows. Wukong raised the rod, and with a flash of light, the flying scythe general exploded. The powerful body was like tofu in front of the golden cudgel. The flying scythe's powerful strength faced the Monkey King's cudgel head-on. The sudden burst of divine might tore apart the darkness of hell, almost cutting off the river of forgetfulness and the chi of six heavens. The power of the ancient witch god was beyond reason. It was hard to imagine that this was the power of a god general of the great Shang dynasty. The era of the ghost god's direct rule was almost a taboo. The flying scythe was one of the four gods under the command of King Zhou. He was as famous as Eli. During the Battle of God's Investiture, the Chan sect was terrified. Later, he was killed by perfected Lord Qingyuan. But the power of the flying scythe still shocked the ages. After becoming the chi of six heavens and becoming a ghost god, he lost his powerful body. Although the flying scythe was weak, he shouldn't have been killed by a great sage of the demon race. When the flying scythe was at his peak, he killed countless great sages of the demon race. The War of Hounds was terrified and the eastern barbarians fled. But that was the Monkey King. I pity you. You died without knowing why. The Monkey King grinned. His face was overflowing with ferocity. His golden cudgel stirred up a huge wave from the heaven underworld under the Bridge of Helplessness. The Bridge of Helplessness, a connate spiritual treasure, trembled slightly, and its spiritual light became unstable. After the flying scythe was destroyed, the six heavens ghosts and deities fell into chaos. The murderous aura suddenly dissipated, and the countless ghosts and deities in formation let out chaotic noises. Their formation was unstable, and panic spread. The flying scythe general was killed. The flying scythe was no match for that monkey. The Shuetu king's legs turned to jelly. Fei Lian was not weaker than him. It could even be said that after the flying scythe became a ghost god, he was slightly stronger than him. When he was alive, he was much stronger than him. But he was killed by that monkey with a single strike. Is he that fierce? Yuan Yu murmured. The Monkey King's sudden outburst shocked his own people first, and then the enemy. Zhou Juyan's expression was indifferent. He stood among the ghost gods of the six heavens and remained unmoved. He slightly released his aura, and an extremely oppressive aura stabilized the formation of the ghost gods. He activated his army and pressed forward. He didn't care about the life and death of the ghost gods. He just wanted them to break through and surround the enemy. Wukong laughed and kicked the buttocks of the blood-soaked demon monarch and a lifeless sect leader beside him. He then roared, "The blood-soaked demon monarch and the lifeless demon monarch of the demonic path are here. You're just a bunch of lowly deities who can't withstand a single blow. Today, we will kill our way into the underworld, break the bridge of helplessness, capture the 10 palaces Yin Luo, and replace him with a king of hell. Boundless sea of blood, trample through the netherworld." His voice shook the netherworld and spread throughout the entire underworld. Even the 10 palace halls of the netherworld reverberated with the Monkey King's roar. The two old demons, Shuetu and Lifeless, turned pale. They had no choice but to face the endless army of ghost gods. Yuan Yu whispered, "Use the terrain of the Bridge of Helplessness." Only then did Wushang force out a strand of Yuan Killer Sword Qi, which scattered in all directions, intercepting the countless six heavens demons and deities that were rushing over on the Bridge of Helplessness. Shuetu touched his body and cursed, "My heavenly demonic blood god saber." Chapter 13:20. Although the 10 halls of the underworld were not as ancient and powerful as the 6 palaces of Luoho, they were the current rulers of the underworld. In the eyes of the masses, they were extremely mysterious and powerful. The second hall, King Chu Jiang, was wearing a royal robe. He was the emperor of the underworld, a mighty figure of the desolate era. He was in charge of the great ice hell. He stood in front of the throne in the hall. When he heard the words of the Monkey King that resounded throughout the underworld, his brows twitched slightly. King Bianqing sneered and said, "That Yang Realm demon monkey sure has big words. Let's not bother about it for now. After all, it's the last of the 7 great sages of the demon race. Although it was ostracized and is not on the same path as the other great sages, the demon race is an ancient force that once ruled over the primordial world. Does the 7 great sages of his have some power? King Chujiang smiled and said, "Umph." King Bianqing snorted coldly. As the seventh great sage, he can't rely on his ancestors. Moreover, the other six great sages killed Crown Prince Mu, but he insisted on rescuing him. It's not a lie that he's disliked in the demon clan. Now the demon clan still needs him. They'll keep him as the seventh great sage. When they don't need him anymore, the first one to be dealt with will be an ingrate like him. At the mention of Prince Mu, King Chujiang's expression turned solemn as he said, "Prince Mu is a problem. Those fellows from the six heavens of Rahu have become old ghosts, and they are unwilling to be left out of the limelight. They want to get involved, but we don't need to provoke that Imperial Lord Donghua. The Rahu six heavens are a bunch of lunatics. They dare to provoke just about anyone." King Chujiang said with dissatisfaction, "Back then, in order to satisfy their appetite, the great Shang divine kingdom slaughtered demons and barbarians as sacrifices. The Emperor Heaven saw the overall situation of cleaning up the demon race, so he turned a blind eye and endured it. Later on, they tortured and killed humans, sacrificed tens of thousands of people, beheaded them, burned them with cannons, used them as stakes, and built palaces for them. They even buried humans in the foundations of the palaces so that their shrines in the world of the living could be reflected on the Yin soil. All kinds of crazy actions that they did not know how to restrain themselves. Only then did they infuriate the Emperor Heaven." King Bianqing snorted and said, "You still call him Emperor of Heaven? The Dihong family is going against the grain." King Chujiang rarely got angry, and he reprimanded in a stern voice, "Impudent! You refer to him as the Emperor of Heaven, even though the Emperor of Heaven has already reached the Tao integration stage. He's not someone people like us can criticize. The Emperor of Heaven is not someone we can criticize." King Bianqing was stunned for a moment. Then he avoided the topic and said, "That Monkey King doesn't have the support of our clan, so there's nothing to worry about. The two juniors from a blood sea are nothing." Bai Sujin said that she has the protection of Old Mother of Mount Li, but although Old Mother of Mount Li is powerful, she can't control the underworld. "Only Emperor Donghua will blame us." King Chujiang coldly snorted and said, "Isn't there Rahu's six heavens to handle it? But there's one thing I still don't understand. Why would the Rahu six heavens want to help us and Emperor Ziyang get involved in this mess? They killed Bai Sujin and offended Old Mother of Mount Li. After all, they are not powerful figures in the heavenly court, but they offended Emperor Donghua, who is not someone to be trifled with." King Chujiang had already thought about this question. The Rahu six heavens have grievances against the Emperor of Heaven. Back then, they were severely punished by the Emperor of Heaven. Their Yang spirit was killed, and their Yin spirit was taken down to the underworld. They could only rely on the blood and flesh of some barbarian shamans in the untainted land. Witchcraft was condemned as obscene worship of evil gods. Compared to the Xia Shang dynasty, when the whole country worshipped and dominated the god nation, they are so pitiful. But when the Emperor of Heaven was still here, they didn't dare to express this grievance. They didn't even dare to complain because they were killed. They were very honest. But after the Emperor of Heaven fused with the Tao, the idea of the Tung Wang Kung gave them ambition. The idea of the Tung Wang Kung is simple. That is, the divine Tao rules the world. God rules everything, rules the untainted land, rules all living beings, and rules the human race. The Emperor of Heaven treats every human race as his descendants. He is the ancestor of the human race, so he naturally treats everyone equally. He is kind and strict. He hopes that everyone in the untainted land will follow Yao Shan, because Yao Shan is his most outstanding descendant. But everyone in the untainted land is a dragon, and everyone is Yao Shan. What else can God rule? So the Tung Wang Kung and gods like us only hope to build a normal heavenly court like the Tai heavenly court. Instead of being united with all living beings, we will rule over all living beings, dominate them, and build a real, high and mighty heavenly court. At that time, The ghosts of the Rahu six heavens will naturally have an excuse to get rid of the restriction of the divine Tao imposed by the Emperor of Heaven and return to the era when the divine right dominated everything. King Bianqing said in a low voice, "There's also Patriarch River Styx. There are rumors that he wants to attack the underworld." King Chujiang hesitated for a moment and said slowly, "Patriarch River Styx has not liked us for a long time. It is not new for him to want to destroy the underworld. However, there is also someone behind us. Otherwise, why would he invite Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva to stay in hell and give our authority to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, and even watch the heavenly Lord of Tai and Nirvana establish the divine kingdom of the Saint Land?" King Bianqing lowered his voice and said, "So there's the mystic door Buddhism, although Patriarch River Styx sealed Luo with a trick, exalted and occupied the demonic Tao. The demonic Tao is no longer the demonic Tao in the hands of demon ancestor Luo. Demon ancestor Luo was born from the resentment of 3,000 chaos demon gods and is destined to destroy the chaos demon god. However, Patriarch River Styx is only formed from Pangu's dirty blood. He has long lost the power to compete with the mystic door Buddhism. In the past, the mystic door wanted to support him to drag demon ancestor Luo down. Now, although River Styx has plotted against Luo and is the strongest in the demonic Tao, he has also lost the support of the mystic door in Buddhism. Now, the mystic door Orthodox Tao no longer needs him. There is no need to worry about anything when dealing with the demonic Tao. It is fine if he behaves himself in the Blood Sea. But if he attacks the underworld and involves the reincarnation, wouldn't that touch the reverse scale of the three religions? The demonic Tao is courting death, so there's no need to worry about the demonic Tao." King Bianqing asked casually, "So, Prince Mu, pretend we didn't see it, don't ask, and don't interfere." The two direct descendants of the Blood Sea of the demonic Tao, if Rahu six heavens doesn't act quickly, we can just help those old ghosts in secret. Let them die here, and we won't show ourselves. The demon race's Monkey King? Ignore him. Let the demon race handle it themselves. That demoness by Sujin, she is just an ant. Let her destroy herself, since she has offended us. So what if we kill her?" Evil Arrival roared as he watched the flying scythe fall. The souls lining up to cross the bridge of helplessness had long since hidden back into the Yellow Springs Road when they saw that something was wrong. Now that the bridge of helplessness was very wide, the evil spirits of the six heavens gathered together and turned into a reddish-black iron blood fiend soldier that soared into the sky. The evil ghost, evil god's dark demonic aura rolled over. Evil Arrival charged at the front, his own spirit expanding countless times in the evil spirit and demonic aura. Demon bastard, die. Kill. Countless ghosts and deities roared in unison, their thunderous roars turning into a clap of thunder that shook the entire bridge of helplessness. Countless evil ghosts and sorcerer deities swarmed out in their own spirit form. They did not have physical bodies, and their own spirits were formless and incorporeal, so the countless ghosts and deities could stack together. The bridge of helplessness was not wide at all, but it was forcefully stuffed with countless ghosts and deities. They surged forward like a flood, their illusory bodies fusing into a tide. Their powerful magic power and the evil spirits that had accumulated for thousands of years were the most brutal and vicious divine abilities of the evil ghosts. The souls of the demons, barbarians, and ancestors that they had devoured were all manifested. Countless faces wielded brutal divine abilities, forming a black tide of mist that rushed toward the two of them. Ajati's hand that was pinching the sword incantation turned white, but he was so nervous that he could not feel any pain. He wailed, "Are we the demonic Tao? Or are they the demonic Tao? It seems like these evil ghosts and sorcerer deities are more evil than us." Xuetu King was even more furious. How shameless. The atmosphere of the primordial era is too bad. It has always been us, the demonic Tao, attacking our enemies. Since when did it become others' turn to attack us? The two old demons, who were forced to take the blame by Wu Sheng and Shui Tu, glanced at the river of forgetfulness on both sides of the bridge of helplessness. A small boat was swaying on the river, drifting to the side of the bridge of helplessness. The two old demons looked at each other and said, "Someone is trying to escape." At this moment, an iron rod suddenly extended and stabbed into the small boat, swinging it far away. Monkey King said impatiently, "You two fight harder. If you play any more tricks, Old Sun will take Little Moo and Little White Snake on the boat and escape. You two demonic Tao overlords failed to invade the Blood Sea. You will be suppressed by the underworld, and your demonic power will be passed down to the future generations. You will be suppressed to the 18 levels of hell for all eternity." Ajadi sighed and said, "Brother Shui Tu, it seems like we have to fight harder today. May the demon ancestor bless us." Blood Demon put his palms together and said sincerely, "When the demon ancestor saw your prayer gesture, he should have killed you." Monkey King scolded, "The river of forgetfulness and the yellow springs are just beside us. I don't believe that a blood demon from the Blood Sea doesn't have a few tricks up his sleeves." Ajadi waved his hand, and Yuan-Tu's sword aura turned into a long river. Shui-Tu stretched out his arms and welcomed the tide of ghosts and deities. The surging tide of evil spirits carried the fierceness of countless evil ghosts and sorcerer deities. Shui-Tu put away his reckless expression and revealed a calm smile. "To the ends of the earth and the yellow springs, I hide my sword in the Blood Sea, but I can't find it. Under the bridge of forgetfulness, the turbid waves of the yellow springs surged and the water flow increased by 30%. Behind Shui-Tu, countless blood gods rushed out and formed a sea of blood behind him. They rushed towards a river of forgetfulness in groups. The blood gods rushed into the yellow springs, and in the blink of an eye, they turned into strands of blood and disappeared. The strands of blood dissipated in the river of forgetfulness, and gradually, the turbid yellow water rose. Sietu raised his head and sighed in a low voice, "Blade, come!" Splash! Huge waves rose in the river of forgetfulness, and the monstrous water rushed towards the bridge of forgetfulness. The bridge of forgetfulness released a ray of spiritual light and firmly suppressed the river of forgetfulness. As soon as he finished speaking, the endless water of the river of forgetfulness turned into the color of blood, and the yellow springs suddenly turned into the Blood Sea true water. It was endless and was borrowed by Shui-Tu King to transform into a long blade. Demonic Blood God Blade. Using the water of the river of forgetfulness, he reversed the yellow springs into the Blood Sea true water and turned the river Styx into the Blood River. The water of the river of forgetfulness was endless and flowed endlessly under the bridge of forgetfulness. This river had sent away countless sorrows and joys, as well as countless passers-by. There was no river that had seen more love and hate than the river of forgetfulness, and there was no bridge that had seen more passers-by than the bridge of forgetfulness. Bridge of forgetfulness, river of forgetfulness. Road of reincarnation, endless blade, demonic blood god raised the blade in his hand. You can run for a lifetime. You can't escape reincarnation anyway. With a sweep of the blade, a boundless river of blood surged forward. Within the river of blood, countless blood gods weaved and intertwined. The countless ghosts and deities that turned into the black tide, and countless souls fell involuntarily into the river of blood. The blood gods in the river pounced on them and devoured them cleanly. The blood gods then split into two and pounced on the next evil ghost. In the blink of an eye, the black tide of ghosts and deities was dyed the color of blood. Only demonic General Erlai was trapped in the river of blood, being devoured by countless blood gods. He roared angrily, and his murderous aura surged and shook, wearing down the ghost-like blood gods. The Zhou shaman flag emitted countless black lights, condensing the army of ghosts and deities into one, resisting the Shui-Tu's endless blade that borrowed the power of the river of forgetfulness and pierced through reincarnation. Demonic blood could not enter reincarnation. Erlai mustered his godly strength and tore apart the river of blood. This terrifying, godly strength shattered countless blood gods. He shouldered the weight of the river of forgetfulness and walked step by step towards the Shwetu king. Ancient Erlai, strength of 1,000. The blood-soaked demon lord held the sky demon bloodblade with a calm expression. He even looked at Wu Lai with admiration. It wasn't until Wu Lai took one step at a time that the light on the bridge of helplessness started to tremble that he said, "General, you are not bad." Erlai roared, "Kill." He let go of the hand that was blocking the blood river and revealed his chest. He raised the halberd with both hands and chopped down at the Shwetu's head. The blood river crashed into his chest, and the saber energy of the demonic blood blade sliced open his chest. The blood river carried the weight of the river of forgetfulness and pierced into Erlai's chest with unparalleled sharpness. The blood river pierced through Erlai's chest, and every moment the boundless blood water took away Erlai's godly strength and life force. In just a few breaths, Erlai's tyrannical battle soul would be eroded and destroyed. But Erlai's divine halberd bastard only needed an instant to break Shwetu's head. The divine halberd chopped down, but the Shwetu's expression was normal, and he did not pull out the blood river blade. Ajadi's Yuntu, sword energy, at this moment pierced through Erlai's head. The ancient Erlai's eyes were filled with regret, and the divine halberd stopped a little bit above Shwetu's head, but it was already a heavenly moat. Erlai's tyrannical body melted into the boundless blood river. Shwetu King pulled out the demonic blood blade, and the blood river that drowned the endless army of ghosts and deities flowed back towards the river of forgetfulness, taking away the primordial spirits and spirits of countless evil ghosts and deities. Those souls numbered in billions, and they merged into the blood river and the river of forgetfulness without a single ripple. The river of forgetfulness was still flowing, and it did not look like it had just turned into a blood river and swallowed countless ghosts and deities. Shwetu held the demonic blood blade upside down. With just a slight raise of his head, the six heavens ghosts and Luo, six heavens felt suffocated and silent. Zhou Yingjue's expression finally changed, and he looked at the figures on the bridge in front of him, one holding a blade and the other holding a sword. Those evil ghosts and deities were his subordinates, and they had once followed him to conquer the demons and barbarians. Those arrogant, innate, divine descendants, the remnants of the demon race, all fell in the hands of this cruel and arrogant army of ghosts and deities. They were tyrannical. They sacrificed prisoners of war. They massacred all living beings, and they were insufferably strong. They wore bronze armors, had shaman runes drawn on them, and smeared their bodies with the blood of demons and barbarians. When they were alive, they were warriors, and when they were dead, they were ghosts and deities, and they continued to fight. They had a savage aura, and they were barbaric and powerful. And now, this invincible army of ghosts and deities was defeated by Mu Ye's slaves, and was imprisoned by the Emperor of Heaven together with the sorcerer god in the underworld. They finally lost their invincible fierceness, and were killed by the two juniors of the demon sect, using the river of forgetfulness to kill countless of them. It was not scary to be killed. The army of ghosts and deities of the great Shang God dynasty had been heavily injured by countless terrifying and cruel demons. But this was not a failure. Fear was a failure. Zhou Jian could already see the fear in the eyes of these Wu ghost warriors. Six heavens old Qi. Maybe we are really old gods now? Emperor of Heaven, didn't you want to represent the 9 heavens to wipe us out? But now, you have not wiped us out yet, and there are already people who want to wipe out your remaining power. Ha! Emperor of Heaven, Dihong family, Dijiang, your majesty, my majesty, why did you abandon us? Why did you abandon us? I just can't forget that I am a sorcerer. Zhou Juyan's eyes were slightly red. He calmed down his surging emotions, and his eyes became cold again. He pulled out his blade and pointed at Shwetu and Wu Sheng on the bridge of forgetfulness. His voice was as cold as usual. Kill. Zhou Jian's strike tore apart the darkness of the underworld, and pierced through the sky above the bridge of forgetfulness like lightning. Shwetu was shocked and quickly raised his blade. Before his blade intent pierced through the river of forgetfulness, he activated the power of river Styx, and the demonic blood blade formed by his blade intent was easily torn apart by Zhou Juyan. The silver lightning continued to tear apart Shwetu's body. He hurriedly turned into a bloody shadow, and a third of his bloody light was destroyed. The remaining sliver escaped in time and hid behind Monkey King. Shwetu roared, "Monkey, you tricked me just now. Help me block it this time. If my demonic blood blade was still here, how could I be defeated so easily by that old man?" Monkey King casually waved his rod and dispersed the silver lightning. Without turning back, he said, "Oh, if you had your blade, you wouldn't have lost?" Shwetu paused, and then said firmly, "At least 3 moves." Chapter 13:21. Fahai carried the purple gold alms bowl and hurriedly ran. Before he reached the bridge of helplessness, he saw a blood river in front of him. The surging blood sea true water swept over, and along the way, countless Een spirits and witchcraft ghosts were drawn in. The blood sea true water easily swallowed and melted these souls and Een spirits. With just a wave of the blood, they were refined into blood gods. Fahai was shocked and hurriedly used his Dharma eyes to look. He saw a sinful aura rising from the bridge of helplessness, sweeping in all directions. Fahai had seen countless evil spirits in hell, but he had never seen such an amazing amount of karma. Not far away, 2 devils raised a green flame and captured evil spirits everywhere. Under the melting of the blood river, the witchcraft ghosts that escaped the net were collected by them with a small black banner. Where did these devils come from? How dare they make trouble in hell? Fahai was angry, and his hair and beard stood on end as he lifted the purple gold alms bowl. Just as he was about to release the purple gold alms bowl to collect the 2 devils, he saw that the blood river formed by the river of forgetfulness was suddenly dispersed by a silver lightning bolt. A devil whose hair and beard were floating with dark green flames laughed strangely. With a green flame, he collected evil spirits everywhere and rushed in front of Fahai. He looked at the young monk who suddenly appeared in front of him. Fahai had a round, bald head, delicate features, and his skin was tender and smooth like tofu, which made the old devil's mouth water. "Good monk, your skull is really round. I have burned, killed, and plundered for so many years, but I have never seen a skull as straight and beautiful as yours. It really is the best material for the white bone heart-locking hammer." The devil let out a strange laugh. He waved his hand, and a 9 Serenities green flame fell on Fahai's body. The 9 Serenities green flame could burn anything. Once it was attached to a origin chi substance, it would be like a maggot in a tarsal bone. If an ordinary celestial immortal came, all their flesh and blood would be refined by this green flame in the blink of an eye, leaving only a snow-white skull. This green flame also contained the old devil's Dharma power, which could be used to refine the skeleton. This kind of foundation of immortals and Buddhas had always been good materials for the demonic path to refine magic treasures. Fahai's eyebrows twitched. He opened the purple gold alms bowl and collected the jade green flame. With a toss, the purple gold alms bowl expanded to the size of a mountain. It emitted a ray of light and swayed toward the old devil, collecting him into the alms bowl. "Where's that old devil?" Fahai said, "You demonic cultivators, how can you intrude into the underworld to create chaos? The river of blood ahead is your accomplice. Hurry up and tell us. Don't hide anything, or else the Buddhist light will refine you and send you to the 18th level of hell." The old devil knew what was good for him. He had caught a trace of Fahai's attack just now and hurriedly said, "The Arhut of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, Aya, they were on the same side. I'm a member of the Azura clan in the Blood Sea. I was forced by a blood demon to come to the netherworld to cause trouble. In fact, I've long admired the Dharma. I want to be a disciple of Bodhisattva. Were those demonic cultivators plotting in the netherworld?" Fahai frowned when he saw the old devil's fawning, but he forced himself to endure it and asked. The old devil answered honestly that they didn't say anything, but I saw some clues in the dark. Those two blood demons and grim demon came with the demoness by Sujin, who is wanted by the heavenly court. It seems that they want to help her reverse reincarnation and save Prince Mu. Everyone in the netherworld knows about by Sujin and Prince Mu now. I wonder if Master has heard of it? Fahai was puzzled. The demonic cultivators are actively involved in this? There's really a big conspiracy behind this. I asked Bodhisattva for help because I wanted to help this pair of lovers and at the same time stop the heavenly court from slaughtering innocent demon spirits. The heavenly court used the assassination of Prince Mu as an excuse to massacre them. Now, that by Sujin actually dares to risk universal condemnation and reverse reincarnation to commit such a heinous crime for him. As expected, she truly has true feelings for him. I wanted to help her and ask Bodhisattva to save Prince Mu without violating the law of reincarnation. This way, the nobles in the heavenly court will know that our Buddhism is also benevolent and persuade his father, the Emperor Donghua, to no longer be hostile to us. But why are they with the demonic cultivators now? I have to explain it clearly. Before Fahai could get up, he saw an iron rod made of mixed iron with two golden hoops at both ends on the bridge of helplessness. It swept across the air and tore apart the spiritual light of the bridge of helplessness. At that moment, the whole netherworld seemed to shake, and the violent tremors set off huge waves on the river of forgetfulness that swept in all directions. The rod brushed past the bridge of helplessness, and the souls on the bridge trembled like thin paper in the wind. For the first time in countless eons, the bridge of helplessness, which had stood steadily on the river of forgetfulness, felt like it was about to collapse. Fahai saw countless underworld gods and messengers, including Oxhead and Horseface, scurrying away in panic. One of the messengers shouted, "Disaster! What a disaster! The devils from the Netherblood Sea are here. They broke the bridge of helplessness, overturned the river of forgetfulness, stepped on the river of blood, and carried the flag of Ancestor River Styx to slaughter the netherworld and kill the king of Yenluo." Among the chaotic gods, only Meng sat there and laughed, as if she did not care at all. Fahai walked past Meng respectfully, holding the purple gold alms bowl. His handsome eyebrows furrowed deeply. He saw the army of ghosts and deities of the six heavens of Rahu on the bridge of helplessness, and only then did he know where the rod had landed. He saw a somewhat tall stone monkey that was half ape and half monkey, wearing a golden chainmail, cloud-walking shoes made of lotus root silk, and a purple gold crown with phoenix wings on its head. It was coming slowly from the end of the bridge of helplessness. The incomparably dense darkness above the bridge of helplessness was broken. Above the lightless netherworld, a trace of dim yellow light shone through. It was like dusk in the Yang realm, when the last wisp of light tore through the darkness, but it was on the verge of collapse. Under this trace of twilight, the shadow of the backlight stretched across the entire bridge of helplessness and was projected in front of the army of ghosts and deities of the six heavens of Rahu. The monkey's body was covered with a dark golden luster, and it was a little messy. The Jingu bang that had just swept through the air rested on its shoulder. Its eyes had calmed down, and there were still remnants of the hardy and high-spirited fighting spirit from the battle just now. However, because it had to suppress its fighting spirit and had nowhere to vent, it looked a little impatient. Its pure eyes carried an unending murderous intent, which made people shiver. The countless ghosts and deities in the surroundings were silent, and a kind of deathly silence spread among the army of ghosts and deities. Behind the monkey, there was a burly man with a dark complexion, and there was a slickness in his roughness. Beside him was a pretty boy with a sword aura and a pair of indifferent but not pure eyes. There was also a young man in Taoist robes who gave off the smell of a salted fish, and a woman in white pulling a soul with a blank expression, following them from afar. The few of them revealed an indescribable look of shock, and the legs of the burly man were even trembling. At this moment, The monkey stopped in its tracks and pressed its slightly messy fur. In front of it was the army of ghosts of the 6 heavens of Rahu and the Een gods of hell. In the middle of them, Zhou Jian, who had a slightly pale face, had a slight smile on his lips, as though he had not had enough. As for the other generals, madams, or rather, ghosts that were made up of 100 spirits and 5 injuries, they were the generals of the defeated army and the dead soldiers of the chaotic army. The men were called generals, and the women were called madams. They guided the ghost soldiers, commanded the army, and commanded the army. They roamed the heavens and earth and used their power and authority. They ordered people to build temples and beg for offerings. They disturbed the people and slaughtered the 3 animals. The expenses were in the tens of thousands, and their wealth was exhausted. If they did not receive their protection, they would instead suffer from their misfortune, and they would die a horrible death. They were all silent, but in reality, they were all secretly terrified. The Monkey King raised his head and swept his gaze across them. He turned back and scolded. "The 3 of you are useless. You even wanted me, old son, to save you. Every time something happens, all you know is to hide behind me. I'm just a small monkey, and I'm only 6 feet tall. Do you think I can block your 9 feet tall bodies?" The Monkey King only stretched his body a little. That Yin-Yang Demon Master was truly despicable. He clearly had some abilities, but he kept slacking off, causing the Monkey King to have no choice but to bully the weak and beat the other party up. The monkey sighed in his heart. "I'm not made to be a nanny. I can't control my anger, and I can't beat the other party up. I can't learn 30% of Master's true skills, and I can't even be influenced by Senior Uncle's style." The 2 of them did not make a move easily. Once they made a move, it would definitely be like a bolt from the blue, unstoppable and shocking everyone. As for the monkey, he was always too impulsive. He was restless and impatient, and it seemed to be his nature. Other than being trained by his master to be calm when he was learning, he was still easily rash when he fought. "You guys!" The monkey raised his head and glanced at the ghosts of the 6 heavens and the Een gods of the underworld. "Lend us a path. Let us pass. From now on, life and death, fighting and killing will have nothing to do with you guys. Everyone will be in harmony. Isn't that good? Do you really want me, old son, to make a move again? When old son becomes murderous." The Monkey King bared his fangs, and his face had the fierceness of a demonic beast. He roared towards the 4 directions, very brutal. The tearing sound waves set off a tide of darkness. Countless ghosts and immortals were swallowed up by the sea of blood. The remaining Een Chi, Baleful Chi, and Devil Chi were swept up by the sound waves and rolled away. The violent sound waves rushed into the surrounding ghosts and immortals, shaking the Een Chi so much that transparent ripples appeared. Some of the weaker ghosts and immortals were directly turned into ashes. Zhou Jian's body also slowly turned into black sand. Aggrieved, the expert who defeated the Shui Tu King at his peak in 3 moves, the Tai Gold that had stepped into the door of Dara, died aggrieved. The first time Zhou Jian made a move, he dispersed the blood river summoned by the Shui Tu King. The second time he made a move, he destroyed Ajadi's sword chi. The third time he made a move, he was evenly matched with Yuanyu. However, Yuanyu was crafty. He turned into Yin and Yang and didn't touch or block. All of his techniques and powers were turned into Tai Chi, and his defense was impeccable. However, he didn't have the initiative to attack. Thus, Zhou Jian made a move against the Monkey King. The monkey was more hot-tempered, and he moved a lot. He wasn't the kind of person who would wait until the end to deal with the rest. Thus, he became impulsive again. The rumbling sound wave caused the ghost souls to show signs of dispersing. The baleful chi of those ghosts and sorcerer gods were all gone, and their ferocity and bravery were all gone. Their Een spirits were sober, and it was as if a bucket of snow was poured over their heads. That savage, baleful chi and fierceness disappeared without a trace in front of the Monkey King, who is a truly ferocious demon god. Along with their bravery, they scrammed far away. "Thus run. We won't die a second time." We really can't beat them. The moment Fahai arrived, he saw countless ghosts and deities turning against him. They fled from his side in panic. Although some of them were just an arm's length away from him, they didn't even turn around to look at him. Those ghosts ran very fast. Without their corporeal bodies to hold them back, they transformed into a black line and flew away. The countless ghosts and immortals slid past on both sides of the Sea of Dharma. Together, they formed an endless stream of ghostly shadows that overlapped with each other. Even the Een gods of the underworld were fleeing. On the other hand, the inconspicuous little ghosts, although they were extremely terrified and trembling with fear, still stood their ground. Boring. The Monkey King kept the golden cudgel and placed it on his shoulders. He turned around and said to Yuan Yu and Shui Tu, "The next time I, old son, need to fight, I'll clean up the sect first." Shui Tu and Wu Sheng trembled. They lowered their heads and said respectfully, "Yes, Demon Lord." "Don't call me Demon Lord, call me Monkey King. The position of Heavenly Demon Master is just a temporary one. To be honest, I'm really not good at being a heavenly demon. I, old son, have always been straightforward. I don't beat around the bush, and I don't use fancy tricks." After a long time, there was no one on the other side of the bridge of helplessness. There was only a white-robed monk who was holding the alms bowl, standing at the end of the bridge. Sietu turned around and asked the lifeless cult leader, "Is he here to die?" Fahai put his palms together and bowed slightly. "Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, sit down." "Fahai, greetings, Tanwa. Kid, do you know who we are?" Shuetu smiled. "This humble monk greets the Heavenly Demon Lord, the two blood demons, my fellow killing demons, this fellow Taoist from the Mystic Door, Prince Mu, and Lady Bai Sujin." Fahai said calmly, "Fahai is not here to eliminate demons and defend the Tao, but to save the common people." Chapter 13:22. On the Bridge of Helplessness, a monkey with dark golden fur and a golden cudgel on his shoulder led the way. Behind him was a handsome young monk who carried a purple gold alms bowl and wore a kasaya. Behind him was a black-haired man with a ferocious face, a bald beard, and a fat body. Behind him was a young man in Taoist robes and a pale-faced swordsman. A pale-faced fat man who looked like a rich family squire followed behind them, trembling with fear. There was also a skinny white horse that was walking powerlessly. These two were the demons who were forced by the blood-soaked demon lord to follow him. Goku asked Fahai to take action and release the Azura demon. Originally, the two of them had a dense demonic aura and a strange and unfathomable appearance. Now, they revealed their true appearance. The Azura demon looked like a horse, but was not a horse. It was a kind of blood sea flood dragon species. It was as thin as firewood, but it could tear tigers and leopards with its bare hands and liked to eat blood. The Azura tribe had all kinds of strange things. It was normal for them to look like horses. On the other hand, the fair-skinned fatty who looked like a rich family official looked gentle, harmless, and amiable. Goku was a little surprised. "You look so harmless. How did you enter the demonic path?" The demon complained to the Monkey King. "It's because of this look that every demon in the blood sea wants to step on me. I'm not welcomed. I have no choice but to create a black, demonic aura to cover my face. There's a monkey, a monk, a bald man with a beard, a fat man, a white horse. What kind of westward journey remix was this?" Behind him was a woman in white with a worried face and a troubled heart. Beside her was a confused shepherd boy. Only then did he realize that the lively Styx River, which was immersed in the slowly flowing river of forgetfulness. This was not a different kind of journey to the west. This was a prequel to the White Snake. This combination made Goku, who was walking at the front, a little irritable. He urged Fahai, who was behind him, in a bad temper. "Monk, hurry up. You said that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is waiting for us in hell. He can enlighten Prince Mu's past life. If we delay for even a moment, countless living beings will die. When the time comes, this debt will be on your head." Fahai placed one palm on his chest and silently chanted the name of Buddha. For some reason, the Monkey King seemed to be biased against him. Fortunately, Fahai was open-minded and didn't fuss over it. Moreover, this monkey's temper was irritable. He had seen how ruthless he could be, so this was considered being polite. This great sage, Heaven's equal, was most likely a grand heavenly realm expert. He originally thought that the 7 great sages of the demon race were merely the young leaders of the demon race who were lacking in succession after the primordial demon court was destroyed. He didn't expect that the great sage, Heaven's equal, who was ranked last, was actually an expert who could be called a great sage during the primordial demon court's heyday. After crossing the bridge of helplessness, there was a smooth road ahead. No more ghosts came to stop this irritable great sage of the demon clan. The white horse's 4 paws landed on the ground silently. Because it was actually a blood sea dragon, the 4 paws of the Azura demon were actually 4 sharp claws. Some are like the sharp claws of an eagle. Some are like the paws of a tiger or a leopard. Some are like the claws of a hybrid branch of the ancient Dragon Ball. And some are like the claws of some herbivorous dinosaurs on Earth. At the end of the bridge of helplessness was a fertile scorched stone. This stone was not originally in Yuta City. It was moved here by Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva after he entered hell. The 18 levels of hell were suppressed in the darkness by the fertile scorched stone. The darkness in Yuta City was endless. That darkness was a space without any form. It was a space with spirit, but no substance. It was very different from the space of the untainted land. Because of the darkness in Yuta City, there was no concept of direction. If 2 people entered the darkness of Yuta City one after another, their relative positions would be unknown because of the darkness. They would never be able to find or touch each other. Even if they passed by each other, it would be meaningless because of the absolute darkness. The darkness in Yuta City was absolute. In terms of space, matter, vitality, and time, it was absolutely unknown and invisible. Yuta City was an unknown world. Therefore, Yuta City, which was the darkest part of the netherworld, could not be reached. The river Styx flowed into Yuta City. However, if one took a boat on the river Styx to enter Yuta City, one would only be lost in this absolute darkness. Only by crossing the bridge of helplessness could one enter Yuta City and directly arrive at the netherworld that was located. It was a space with location, time, and address that Lady Hutu had opened up in the absolute darkness. However, these spaces could only be accessed through the correct address. The address of the netherworld was at the other end of the bridge of helplessness. As long as one crossed the bridge of helplessness, one would arrive at the netherworld and see the 10 temples of Yenluo. Other than the 10 temples of Yenluo, there were 5 sacred mountains in Yuta City, including Mount Bazaar, Mount Luo, Mount Luofu, Mount Baodu, and Mount Beimang. There were also the 6 heavenly palaces of Rahu, Yidu City, Fengdu City, Haoli City, Qinghua Changle World, and the Eastern Wonderfulness Palace. Reincarnation was hidden in the darkness. Other than the river Styx, it was untraceable. If one wanted to access reincarnation, he would have to go through the 10 temples of Yenluo and follow the correct procedure and the law of reincarnation in order to be reincarnated. These laws were engraved on the Emperor Heaven of Yuta City and the law of reincarnation by mighty figures like Hutu, Emperor Heaven, and River Styx. After crossing the bridge of helplessness, Monkey King and the rest did not see the 10 temples of Yenluo, let alone the land of reincarnation. Only Wajiaoshi was still locating hell. Fahai put his palms together and said helplessly, "It seems that the kings of hell do not welcome evil guests from the sea of blood. They closed the gates of hell and prevented me from seeing the 10 temples of the netherworld." Fortunately, Bodhisattva used his great power to move Wajiaoshi here. If it was in the past, to enter hell, one must first go through one of the 10 temples of Yenluo. Later, Bodhisattva felt that it was inconvenient to go back and forth, so he opened up another entrance to hell, which is this Wajiaoshi. As long as you follow this Wajiaoshi down, you will reach the 10-directional hell. Monkey King laughed coldly. That old man from Yenluo is really arrogant. Without the king of Yenluo's butcher, do you think I can't eat this hairy pig of reincarnation? After crossing the bridge of helplessness, we will reach hell. Even if I don't go through the 10 temples of Yenluo, I can still summon the river Styx and go to reincarnation. Why would I need him? Ajadi also laughed coldly. What would Jiaoshi down? I've asked Ancestor Yuan to. Later, we could just ask Ancestor Avicii to show his might and send us to Avicii's hell. Wouldn't that be a piece of cake? The Heavenly Court has the 10 temples of the Netherworld that guard the secret of reincarnation. The Buddhists use with Jiaoshi to suppress a gate to hell. We, the path of evil, have a background as well. At the bottom of the sea, there is a secret passage that leads directly to reincarnation. The sea in this world of Yudu City is originally formed by the river Styx. Hell is in the land of the sea, and reincarnation is at the end of the river Styx. The Shui-Tu king grinned savagely. Hell was originally created by the demon ancestor river Styx and goddess Eo. Even the emperor of heaven came later. Not to mention the Buddhists. This hell, reincarnation, the netherworld, Yudu City, the sea of blood, which place are we not free to go? Fahai was not surprised. This was because the path of evil's massacred demon ancestor river Styx was born in the boundless sea of blood. It was originally an important place in the dark side of the prehistoric world before the hell was created. Later on, Hutu occupied Yudu City and River Styx occupied the Sea of Blood. The netherworld Inland was created by the two of them together. Hutu opened reincarnation with the support of River Styx. Otherwise, before reincarnation was created, half of the souls of all living beings would enter Yudu City and become ghosts, while the other half would enter the Sea of Blood and be reshaped into demons by the ancestor river Styx. Later on, Hutu fought against ghosts and demons and defeated the group of evil gods in Yudu City. She forced the ancestor river Styx to give up the right to guide the souls of all living beings in the Sea of Blood. Only then did she win the freedom and home of the souls of all living beings. Later on, Hutu opened reincarnation and the demon ancestor opened river Styx. River Styx guided all living beings into reincarnation and eternal sleep. This was the first reincarnation. Until all living beings prayed for the next life, Hutu and the demon ancestor river Styx had a falling out. They created the hell and reincarnated. In a rage, river Styx returned to the Sea of Blood. It will no longer flowed in the river Styx to guide all living beings. In the final battle between heaven and earth, the Emperor of Heaven seized the power of reincarnation. The system of the celestial court covered the hell. Until now, although Hutu and River Styx had left the management of the hell, these two great mediums could still easily interfere with reincarnation through the law of reincarnation. This was even more so after the Emperor of Heaven had fused with the path. Fahai only smiled and said, "The ancestor river Styx is impartial. He has never allowed the demons in the Sea of Blood to invade reincarnation. Although the path of diabolism used the power of the river Styx to invade, it was only because of their supernatural powers and magical powers. They adapted to the environment of the netherworld and understood a part of the great Tao that the ancestor river Styx had created. The trouble of the Mosses did not become a disaster. It can be seen that although this demon ancestor is the master of the path of diabolism, he is impartial in the perspective of reincarnation. Are you a descendant of the path of diabolism? Perhaps in the eyes of this demon ancestor, you are nothing more than a speck of dust. May I ask if you can request the demon ancestor to go against his own will for you?" The Shui-Tu king was hit where it hurt. He shut his mouth and did not say a word. He had an attitude of ignoring him and allowing him to say whatever he wanted. The demon ancestor was the father of the demon whelps in the Sea of Blood. He did not put the cart before the horse. To ask the demon ancestor to go against his own will for them was something that even the most fantastical lunatic of the path of diabolism would not dare to have such thoughts. Demon lords, demon masters, please follow this penniless monk. Fahai invited them sincerely. The closer they got to the bottom of the fertile, scorched rock, the hotter it became. The rock was as large as a mountain, and the bottom of it was burned by the flames of Avicii's hell. Therefore, it was often scorching hot and suffused with the aura of extreme hellfire. Shepherd Boy Lord was now a mortal soul. Although he was protected by Sujin's dermic powers, he still felt uncomfortable. It was no wonder that Avicii's hell suffered endless torment. Even if there was nothing else, just the scorching heat was extremely unbearable. Deep in the fertile scorched rock, in the Avicii's hell, a temple hall suddenly appeared. In front of the hall, a red lotus bloomed. It was a magnificent sight in the fiery hell. The temple hall was adorned with 7 treasures. In the middle of the hall, light shone brightly, illuminating all the hells. Just a tiny bit of the light could resolve a sliver of negative karma, making the entire soul body feel a little more relaxed. However, the few that came manifested their negative karma in the Buddhistic light. The negative karma on Shui, 2 King's body, turned into a sea of blood. It was boundless, and every trace of blood was thick and indissoluble negative karma. The thick negative karma was about to ignite the hellfire. The churning sea of blood was like a sea of fire. When Fahai saw this, his eyelids twitched. He was worried that the demon would die from the hellfire before he reached the Ksitigarbha temple. However, Shwetu smiled and did not care. In the sea of blood manifested by negative karma behind him, a 12th grade red lotus bloomed silently. Endless negative karma turned into nutrients for the red lotus. The red lotus bloomed even more brilliantly in the endless sea of negative karma. There was only a sword shadow behind Ajadi. Fahai took a glance and had no choice but to look away. This was because the cold negative karma on the sword shadow made Fahai's golden body feel a stabbing pain. If he looked at it any longer, Fahai's eyes would turn red from the pain. Just as the negative karma appeared on Yuan Yu's body, a golden bridge crossed over. The negative karma wrapped around the golden bridge and disappeared without a trace. Fahai took a few more glances at Yuan Yu. Previously, Yuan Yu's low profile made Fahai somewhat ignore this person. Now he paid more attention to him. Finally, he saw the negative karma on the monkey's body. The dark void was like an abyss, a ruin, a deep and bottomless universe. Fahai's expression changed immediately. Even the Buddhistic light emitted by the entire Ksitigarbha temple seemed to be unable to withstand the pressure brought by the monkey's negative karma. The golden Buddhistic light shook slightly, and the entire Ksitigarbha temple seemed to be trembling. In the temple, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva sighed inaudibly. Only then did the Buddhistic light stabilize. Finally, it was the 2 demons, White Horse and Fatty. They cried out tragically from the negative karma that was as thick as a dark cloud. Wisps of negative karmic fire burned them to the point that their cultivation was on the brink of collapse. Instead, it was Shepherd Boy who did not feel anything. He did not have any negative karma on him. As for Baisujin, there were wisps of grayish-white gas around her, but there was also a thick black and white light of Yin virtue. When the Buddhistic light shone on her, the wisps of grayish-white negative karma began to melt. Baisujin felt her body lighten. She felt a great sense of freedom and peace. It was an extremely beautiful feeling. The Buddhistic light brought with it hints of warmth. It made Baisujin involuntarily turn respectful. When Fahai saw this scene, he heaved a sigh of relief. What kind of monsters had come today? The 2 demons, and Baisujin's reaction was normal. Monkey did not wait for Fahai to return the decree. He skipped to the vermilion door of the Ksitigarbha temple and was just about to push it open. With a creak, the door to the Ksitigarbha temple opened without any wind. The few of them entered one after another. Before Baisujin entered, she first bowed and paid her respects to the Ksitigarbha temple. As for the other Shwetu, Yuan Yu, Wuxing, and company, they did not pay any attention to her. Monkey acted like he was returning home. When Fahai saw this, his gaze towards Baisujin turned gentler. He returned the bow on behalf of the Ksitigarbha temple. As for the Azura demon and the Een demon dressed as Fatty, they stood by the door uneasily. They did not know if it was better to enter or stay outside. Fahai bowed slightly and said, "Tanyue, Buddhism is vast. We do not reject you." The 2 demons looked at each other. The Azura demon gritted his teeth and said, "Enter." After all, we are the same family. They will not harm me. Monkey walked straight through the hall. The two sides of the hall were filled with Buddhas. When they saw the Monkey King barging in, they either treated him indifferently, glared at him angrily, nodded and smiled, or looked benevolent, but with a hint of condemnation. It was as if they were looking at an ignorant, naughty child. This made the Monkey King a little angry. On the main seat, the Lianhua throne, sat a person. A compassionate smile appeared on her face. Her head was slightly tilted to one side, and she looked solemn. She had a nose bridge and high eyebrows. Her eyes were long and thin. She had thin lips and broad shoulders. She wore a short robe that exposed her feet. She was covered in jewels and jewels. She looked benevolent and peaceful. When Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva saw the Monkey King enter, she raised her head slightly. Her aura was not oppressive, but it was extremely peaceful and beautiful. It was as if everywhere she went was a paradise. It was peaceful, and everyone was happy. Even in hell, she still held up a pure land of bliss. Anyone who harbored evil thoughts and stubborn obsessions, evil ghosts, evil demons, would not be able to help but let go of their foolish thoughts when facing this bodhisattva. Their hearts would be filled with peace. However, Wukong was the one with an unchanging obsession. He looked straight at Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva and grinned, revealing his canine teeth. He gave an arrogant smile that was filled with wildness and recklessness. The Buddhas stared angrily, but the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva did not mind. When Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva saw the crowd enter one by one, he smiled. He carefully looked at Shepherd Boy Lord and said with a smile, "You are indeed the prince of the heavenly courts, the youngest son of celestial Lord Donghua. Shepherd Boy Lord, back when you were born, I even went to see you. Even though you have reincarnated, your looks have not changed. Back then, when you were born on a free day, immortals and gods were celebrating. I even carried you. With this fate, I have to save you." Chapter 1323. The great sage's reincarnation divine power has given you a chance of survival in the land of certain death. Although Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was speaking to Shepherd Boy, he turned his head and bowed slightly to Monkey King. Monkey King took the opportunity to return the bow. The two seemed to be somewhat familiar with each other. It made Yuan Yu and company's hearts pound. The youngest of the 7 great sages of the demon race, Monkey King, was also the leader of the 10 great demon lords, the heavenly fiend lord. He was also familiar with Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Yuan Yu, Xue Tu, and the others racked their brains to recall such a powerful person from the primeval universe in their memories. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva continued, "Your essence soul was destroyed by Demon King overturning Sea Trident. Even Golden Immortals Dara could not save you. Unfortunately, there are less than a handful of Golden Immortals Dara who can use the laws of reincarnation in this world. Yet, you met one and was able to reincarnate. It would not be difficult if you were to come to terms with your past. However, Crown Prince Bo Jun massacred demon spirits in the name of your assassination, resulting in the deaths of countless living beings. And if Crown Prince Mu were to reincarnate, he would no longer be Crown Prince Mu. Reincarnation eliminates karma. It is a heavenly rule. Now, that Emperor Gao Yang wants to sever the heavens. He wants to sever the karma between heaven and man. After you reincarnate as a human, you will sever your karma with the Crown Prince and Man of Heaven. Even your father can't do anything about it. If he were to acknowledge you, wouldn't that be going against Emperor Gao Yang's desire to sever the heavens and strictly abide by the limits of heaven and man? Where is the authority of the heavenly rule? Therefore, to prevent this calamity of innocent demon spirits, it is not something you can do just by coming to terms with your past. You have to return to your previous life." Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva sighed and said, "Reversing the cycle of reincarnation is a taboo in the netherworld. Therefore, even with your father's reputation, Yinluo of the 10 Halls did not dare meet you. It was Fa Hai who pleaded with me that I opened the door and gave you an opportunity." Shepherd Boy was confused by what he heard, but he still bowed and said, "Thank you, Bodhisattva, for your mercy." Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva said compassionately, I'm not making things difficult for you. I just pity you. Although you are the reincarnation of Prince Mu, you are not Prince Mu. Isn't reversing the cycle of reincarnation equivalent to sacrificing yourself? The first half of my life was like a dream. Although I have been a shepherd boy for a long time, now that I think about it carefully, my memories are blurry. Many things are vague, like a dream or reality. It was like a big dream. Only when Miss Bai woke me up did I truly live for once. I went down to the 9 springs with you and crossed the river Styx. I saw many miraculous things that I had never seen or heard of before. When I first woke up from my dream, I promised the great sage and big sister by out of curiosity. The first half of my life was muddle-headed. If someone asked me to do anything, I would agree. I'll let you fool around this time. Although I was unable to do anything, I was still happy. Now is the time to make a promise. Although I do not know what Big Sister by the Great Sage, Uncle Shuetu, and Big Brother Yuan you want to do, I believe it must be something extremely important. Just as Bodhisattva said, it concerns countless innocent lives. Although I was dispensable along the way, in a short moment I woke up from my dream, I treated everyone as my only friends in this life. In this life of mine, the past is like a dream. What more can I ask for in my next life? All I can do is grasp the present. Now, it's like I had 2 dreams. One was in the past, and the other is in the present. It's time to wake up from the dream. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva could not bear it and said, why kill one person to save another? If it's to save Prince Mu, how can I bear to kill an innocent person? Living is your right to begin with. No one can take it away from you. If you say no, how difficult would it be for me to protect you your entire life? The moment he said that, he actually had the intention of protecting the shepherd boy. Fahai looked up in horror. The words of advice were already at his throat, but he could not spit them out. Countless lives were innocent, but wasn't the shepherd boy innocent? Just as Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva had said, by reversing samsara and allowing Prince Mu to return, wasn't it equivalent to killing the shepherd boy? If Fahai were to say no to the shepherd boy's request for him to live, with his half-life Zen heart, he would be able to say it. Bai Sujin's heart was in a mess. She was naturally kind and could not bear to force a pure and innocent youth to death. In the beginning, she believed that the shepherd boy was a product of the monkey's dermic arts. His memories were an illusion, and he was not a living being. However, after experiencing so much with him, she had long understood that the monkey's samsara had already reached the level of creation. If not, he would not have been able to save Prince Mu. The shepherd boy was a true, complete being. He had love and ruthlessness, emotions and bitterness. However, as he had lived in the monkey's illusion for the first half of his life, his memories were muddled and blurry. Therefore, he was like pure water, carrying the naivety of human nature. Bai Sujin could not bear to see it anymore. However, when she thought of the similarly muddled, simple and kind demonic spirits being slaughtered and ravaged, as well as the people she was familiar with falling into the abyss, Bai Sujin was in a dilemma. She did not need to choose between the two. The shepherd boy was not anyone to her. The so-called miracle was just a joke made by the 2 gods in front of Hell's Gate. As for the innocent demonic spirits, they did not suffer the calamity because of her. After obtaining Yuan Yu, the monkey had either intentionally or unintentionally enlightened her. Bai Sujin had long understood that it was not her own calamity that implicated the innocent demonic spirits. Instead, it was these innocent demonic spirits that caused the calamity. Those conspirators had chosen her to clean up the kind and law-abiding demonic spirits that were wavering between the heavenly courts and the Fae. Because of her kindness, she could not bear to harm the shepherd boy, nor could she bear to let the innocent suffer. The reason why Bai Sujin was in a dilemma was because both sides stemmed from Bai Sujin's pure and kind heart. Therefore, the situation of not being able to satisfy both sides tore at Bai Sujin's conscience. It made her feel extremely pained. Now, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva had given the shepherd boy a choice. It made Bai Sujin feel both joy and discomfort. She was at a loss as to what to do. Monkey King did not mind. He had always been very open-minded about such matters. Yuan Yu's heart was moved, but he, Shui Tu, Wu Sheng, and other members of the demonic sects had experienced such choices and torment countless times. He was numb to it. The demonic sects could be said to be extremely cruel when it came to tempering one's heart. What was a mere separation? The shepherd boy smiled. His smile was clear, without a single speck of dust. He said calmly, "What do you mean by killing me? I am Prince Mu's reincarnation. Prince Mu is alive, but I am not dead. I am only living in the distant future. How can there be an immortal in this world? When Prince Mu enters samsara again, won't you be able to see me again? This is only a temporary separation, not an eternal one. As long as there is time, there will be a time for us to meet again. At that time, today's reluctance and farewell, that trace of sorrow, will only be brewed into the sweetest and most mellow wine. At that time, I will truly live. Bodhisattva, please summon the prince back." The few of them saw this, but did not say it out loud. Prince Mu was the son of Empyrean Lord Donghua. He was a natural-born heavenly man. His lifespan was so long that it could last until the end of time. With this separation, it would be a long time before they could meet again. Furthermore, if Prince Mu were to reincarnate again, would the shepherd boy who returned be the same shepherd boy? Would he step into the same river twice? The shepherd boy had never interrogated himself. What was his true self? How could he answer? Bai Sujin looked at the shepherd boy's relieved smile. Her heart lightened at first before it turned sour. The shepherd boy knelt in front of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva extended his hand and pressed it on his glabella. He said softly, "There are only a few people in this world who can stir samsara. Now that I have reversed samsara for you, although there's a reason for it, I have still violated the laws set by Her Majesty Hutu. For the next 500 years, I will bear the endless suffering in hell on behalf of the 3,000 evil ghosts. Samsara is like a compass. Who can stir it?" said the Monkey King with a faint smile. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva extended his hand to stir samsara. An unimaginable divine power reversed the laws of samsara, returning him from the future to his previous life. In the unseen world, an indescribable black and white compass at the bottom of the underworld slowly spun. A golden finger nudged one of the squares, causing it to silently move back one square. Shepherd Boy's soul instantly disappeared. A lost figure in white slowly walked out of the chaos. Above the chaos sea in the primordial world, an inconceivable dragon that was formed from countless timelines, countless parallel universes, and countless space-time dimensions opened its eyes slightly. When it opened its eyes, time moved forward. All the worlds and universes turned into day. The torch dragon glanced at Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, causing Bodhisattva to reveal a troubled expression. However, he did not make things difficult for Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Just as Prince Mu was about to return, a hand suddenly pushed against the samsara wheel. The square that had been pushed back suddenly moved back 2 squares. A voice with a hint of a smile sounded from the samsara wheel. "Aya, my hand slipped," Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva said angrily. River Styx struck the samsara wheel with his palm, causing Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's psyche to bounce back. River Styx said coldly, "I already said my hand slipped. Do you want me to give you an explanation? Do I not want my face?" In the Ksitigarbha temple, everyone watched as Prince Mu's figure slowly returned from the samsara wheel. Suddenly, he disappeared into the chaos. Replacing him was a scholar dressed in Confucian robes. He had a somewhat dazed look on his face. He was thrown out of the samsara wheel and fell in front of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. He landed face first on the ground. It was not a light fall. Bai Sujin looked at him in a daze. The scholar groaned as he crawled up. His face was bruised and swollen. When he saw Bai Sujin, he was overjoyed. He went forward to grab Bai Sujin's hand and said excitedly, "My wife." Bai Sujin felt as though she had been struck by lightning. Yuan Yu's mouth gaped. Shui Tu had a blank look. Wu Sheng stared with widened eyes. Monkey King perked up. He could not help but scratch his body in search of lice. This was an old habit of his. Although he was no longer stained by dust, he could not help but scratch the lice when he was excited to eat melons. The day scholar grabbed by Sujin's hand tightly. He was overjoyed. "My wife, I've been looking for you for a long time. Come back with me. In the future, I'll get the herbs and you'll boil the water. Our family will be harmonious. I don't care if you're a human or a demon." Bai Sujin tried her best to control herself. She revealed a forced smile. If little Qing, who was familiar with her, was here, she would know that this sister of hers was about to lose control when she saw Bai Sujin's throbbing forehead. "My wife." The man was still as weak as before. He only knew how to pull Bai Sujin's hand and call out, "This young master, can you let go of me?" Bai Sujin forced a smile. The man grabbed Bai Sujin's hand tightly. "My wife, what's wrong with you? I'm Su Xian. This young master, I still don't know you. Can you please let go of my hand?" Bai Sujin could no longer maintain her smile. Su Xian was still dazed. He finally let go of Bai Sujin's hand. However, he stretched out his hand to check Bai Sujin's forehead. He wanted to feel her pulse. "My wife, don't you recognize me? I'm Su Xian." Bai Sujin shrank her body to avoid Su Xian's hand. She used her last bit of patience and said, "Young master, let's calm down first before we talk." In the end, Bai Sujin finally lost control. She revealed an extremely horrifying expression. The coldness of a snake and the impatient rage of a woman mixed together to form a forbidden expression. She grabbed Su Xian's wrist and gritted her teeth. "I say, young master, let's let go of my hand and talk." Okay. Su Xian, trembling uncontrollably. My wife suddenly became so scary. Ouch. Su Xian's eyes were filled with tears. He cried out in pain. "My wife, let go of my hand." Bai Sujin felt Su Xian's pulse. She had already ruined her image, so she didn't care anymore. She glared at Su Xian. "Who's your wife?" "I'm Bai Sujin, a virgin. I've never been betrothed to anyone. I don't even have anyone that I admire. I only have a sworn sister to rely on. I'm innocent and kind. I've never seen you before. Who are you?" At this time, an old monk with white eyebrows walked out from the chaos. He was holding a purple gold alms bowl. When he saw Bai Sujin holding Su Xian's hand, he raised the purple gold alms bowl and said, "Bai Sujin, Su Xian, the love between a human and a demon is intolerable. I won't let the mistake of the past repeat. Even if I have to kill, I will redeem everything. I won't make the same mistake again." Chapter 1324. Bai Sujin ignored Fahai, because before he could act, he was stopped by Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva looked exhausted. Bai Sujin's face was filled with despair. Looking at Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, Bodhisattva sighed faintly. "Just now, I reversed reincarnation to summon Prince Mu, but Patriarch River Styx stopped me." It was the Patriarch. Shuetu King and the others were shocked. White-robed Fahai frowned and looked at the old Fahai in confusion. "You're Fahai?" White-browed and white-bearded Fahai sighed. "I'm Fahai too." "Foolish child, you helped these two evil creatures for your wish of equality. Don't you know that you've committed a grave mistake? Humans and demons shouldn't be together. The celestial court should be high above, far away from the mortal world. Otherwise, it will be disturbed by the mortal world. The entanglement of karma between heaven and earth, gods and mortals, will inevitably lead to a great calamity. Not all karma that comes from kindness will be rewarded with kindness. The heavenly Tao follows its rules. The high and mighty gods were moved by mortal hearts, and for their own selfishness, they caused chaos in the world and created endless evil. At that time, will you still be so stubborn?" The old Fahai said in a low voice. "This is Patriarch River Styx's plan. He placed the immeasurable calamity for Bai Sujin and Su Xian's love, affecting the karma of all living beings in the primordial universe and the celestial court, causing the gods and humans to offend each other, and the celestial court to deviate from the heavenly Tao. This is a test. Prince Mu's identity is special. Wherever he goes, he will definitely cause waves involving the various forces in the celestial court. The celestial court is not moving now but once it does, it will fall into River Styx's trap. Once traces are left, the demons and the anti-heaven forces will all become River Styx's pawns. He only needs to find the corresponding pawns and restrain the celestial court step by step until the bell rings and the world collapses. This may seem like a small matter, but it is the key to the entire calamity. Then why did the venerable demon ancestor stop Imperial Prince Mu from returning? The Shwetu king took a step forward and asked. Fahai smiled coldly. How could people with great supernatural power like them repeat their arrangements? Since Prince Mu hasn't returned, it means that Patriarch River Styx has changed his playing style. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva calculated with his fingers. He shook his head and said, Now is not the time for you to leave my Earth Bodhisattva palace. There are many ghosts and deities out there that want to kill you. The people from the heavens are here, and they are blocking my entrance. If I were to guard this hall, they wouldn't dare to come and kill me just because of my face. If you leave this hall, I won't be able to protect you. Previously, when I reversed reincarnation, I had already violated the rules of reincarnation. Yin Luo of the 10 Palaces, not pursuing the matter, is already giving me a lot of face. I really can't refute them. Yin Luo of the 10 Palaces also wants us to die. The Shwetu king, Yuan Yu, and the others looked at each other. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva explained. Not long ago, Emperor Dong Hua wanted to descend, but Emperor Gao Yang stopped him on the grounds that the heavens were discussing politics. Yin Luo of the 10 Palaces probably knows that I reversed reincarnation and failed because of Patriarch River Styx. Yuan Yu gasped. In other words, Emperor Ziyang side no longer has any scruples. Previously, Emperor Ziyang couldn't use the power of the heavens to arrest you because of the power of Emperor Donghua, and you claimed that you entered the underworld to save Imperial Prince Mu. Now, that Emperor Donghua can't show up, and the operation to save Imperial Prince Mu has failed, Emperor Ziyang's side no longer has any scruples, Fahai said solemnly. Neutral forces like Yin Luo of the 10 Palaces will also attack you, and it's perfectly justifiable. Don't think that the heavens will show us mercy. Yuan Yu sighed. Patriarch, why did you stop Imperial Prince Mu from returning? Shwetu king scratched his head and couldn't figure out. Is it also the Patriarch's plan to force us to this point? Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva advised. You can temporarily take refuge in my Ksitigarbha temple. After a long time, the ghosts and deities outside will naturally disperse. Bai Sujin was confused. But we can't wait. Cold sweat broke out on Yuan Yu's head, and he said with a trembling voice, I understand what you mean. The vermilion door of the Ksitigarbha temple was suddenly knocked. A Bodhisattva stood up to take a look and soon reported, Bodhisattva, King Chujiang requests an audience. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva sighed. It seems that I can't protect you. If the few outstanding demonic cultivators are willing to shave their tongues and become monks and become my disciples, then it'll be easier for me to evade. Otherwise, the second Yinluo temple will come and force me to chase the guests away. My Ksitigarbha temple is only residing in their territory, so there's really nothing I can do. King Chujiang has always respected Bodhisattva. Now that he's pulled his face, it's obvious that he has made up his mind to kill. White Shirt Fahai said helplessly. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva said to Bai Sujin and Su Xian, they're too involved with the demonic cultivators, so I can't help them, but I think I still have some face to protect you guys. The receptionist reported again. Bodhisattva, Imperial Prince Bo Jun requests an audience. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was speechless. After a long time, he sighed and said, they're slapping my face. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva looked at Bai Sujin and smiled bitterly. I've just boasted previously, but now I have to make irresponsible remarks and go back on my words. You and I can't protect you anymore. I can only protect Imperial Prince Mu's reincarnation, Su Xian. If someone else comes to stop me, I'll protect you, Su Xian, even if I don't care about the reputation of the underworld. Invite King Chujiang and Imperial Prince Bo Jun in. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva said a little angrily. Amidst a few tall gods and devils, Imperial Prince Bo-jun and King Chu-jiang walked side by side. They talked from time to time as they slowly stepped over the threshold of the Ksitigarbha temple. Walking into the temple, King Chu-jiang greeted Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva and said, "Bodhisattva, the reincarnation was shaken earlier and the underworld was restless, so I came to pay my respects to Bodhisattva. I think it's because that demoness by Sujin, who assassinated Imperial Prince Mu, broke into the underworld and colluded with the demonic cultivators to cause chaos. Because those demonic cultivators caused a huge ruckus, the underworld's gods are busy quelling the trouble, so I came to ask Bodhisattva to subdue the demons." Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva said helplessly, "King Chu-jiang must be joking. They are all guests in my temple. Please forgive them, King Yama." King Chu-jiang smiled warmly. "Bodhisattva, it's not that I don't want to give you face, but these people have really committed a great sin. They assassinated the imperial prince of the heavenly court, caused chaos in the reincarnation of the underworld, and created endless killing. Both the heavenly court and the underworld can't tolerate them, and those demonic cultivators were probably sent by the river Styx to harm the underworld. As the second King Yama, I have to investigate." Yuan Yu stood up. "Thank you for your kindness, Bodhisattva, but since King Chu-jiang has come to condemn us, why don't we talk to him and reason things out?" His gaze swept across the group of ghost cultivators, Zhang Jiao of the Path of Peace, Imperial Prince Bo-jun, Imperial Prince Liu, Judge Liu, and Yuan Yu said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "Zheng Yangzi of the Mystic Door greets fellow Taoists. Since you're a fellow Taoist of the Mystic Door, why are you colluding with the demonic cultivators?" Zhang Jiao said coldly. Yuan Yu smiled and explained, "Even though there's a difference between the Mystic Door and the demonic cultivators, it doesn't make up for the difference in our standpoints. As long as our standpoints are the same, why can't the Mystic Door and the demonic cultivators stand together?" Imperial Prince Bo-jun said indifferently with his hands clasped behind his back, "Isn't it just the traitors of the Mystic Door who have fallen to colluding with the demonic cultivators to destroy the laws of the Heaven Court?" Yuan Yu continued to explain in a polite tone, "Zheng Yangzi's force field is only for the living beings of the primordial world. Now, there's someone who wants to cause a great calamity between the human race and the demon race, muddying the waters of the primordial world, and even wants the primordial demon court to return. Zheng Yangzi only asks who is right and who is wrong. He doesn't care about the demonic cultivators of the Mystic Door. Are you guys ready to leave the Ksitigarbha Palace?" King Chujiang's expression was calm as he suddenly said, "The Ksitigarbha Palace is the place where Bodhisattva purifies the evil spirits of hell and cultivates. It's a peaceful place for Buddhism. You guys shouldn't stay for long." Shuetu King said coldly, "Since that's the case, let's talk outside. What's there to talk about with demons like you guys? Let me send you off." Zhang Jiao nodded slightly. "Anyway, you guys will come back here soon. At that time, it'll be justifiable to ask Bodhisattva to enlighten you." King Chu-jiang shook his head and said, "Cult Master Zhang must be joking. These demons who have violated the laws of heaven and assassinated the imperial prince of the heaven court won't have a chance to reincarnate. Even hell won't accept them. They're destined to walk on the demon-slaying platform of the heaven court, and their souls will be destroyed. They won't be able to reincarnate." Monkey King stood at the doorstep of the Ksitigarbha Palace and looked outside. The huge floating ships of the Milky Way Navy were like a floating continent, blocking the entrance of Wajiao. Countless tyrannical existences appeared in the darkness of Yudu City. 5 of the 10 Yinluo kings had come, and they were all staring coldly at the Ksitigarbha Palace in hell. Monkey King retreated and whispered to Yuan Yu and the others, "I, old son, can kill my way out, but I won't be able to bring you guys along." A dim light flashed in Yuan Yu's eyes. Since old ancestor has trapped us here, he definitely didn't want to kill us. So, the situation will definitely change. Moreover, I've already guessed old ancestor's intention. Old ancestor suddenly interrupted Imperial Prince Mu's return just for this. After all, if Imperial Prince Mu returns, Imperial Prince Bo Jun's intention of intensifying the conflict between humans and demons has been achieved. There won't be any more problems. On the contrary, we have to make a big mess of this mess. See, old ancestor has already created an opportunity for us. Don't worry, great sage, we won't die. Monkey King glanced at Yuan Yu and said with a smile, You, Yin Yang Demon Master, really hid your strength well. Even if those two blood demons and demon-slaying brat die, you'll still be fine. Yin Luo Kings of the 10 Halls can only match up to me. How did the Emperor of Hell manage to create these 10 good-for-nothings? With that, the two of them took the lead and walked out of Xidagarba Temple under the gaze of countless ghosts and deities. Xuetu and Wu Sheng sighed and followed behind them. The countless heavenly generals and Yin soldiers, hundreds of Dao lords, dozens of primordial immortals, and 5 Yin Jun were all Dara. The heaven had sent 2 heavenly generals, Mei Tianshun and Xiong Guangxian, who were also Dara. Such a grand scene filled the air as they blocked the scorched rock with towering, killing intent. The ghost army and heavenly soldiers took the form of a celestial fiend, Qiyu. After this powerful Grand Magus was killed by the reincarnation of the Emperor of Heaven, he was conferred the title of Weapon Master by the Heaven. He was one of the 8 divine masters of Heaven: Earth, Yin, Yang, Sun, Moon, Soldier, and 4 seasons. When the heavenly soldiers went on expeditions, they would often fly Qiyu's flag. Bai Sujin clenched her teeth and followed behind Ajadi with a resolute look on her face. Su Xian was as quiet as a chicken when he saw so many gods and deities appearing one after another. Now, when he saw Bai Sujin going out to meet her death, he broke free from Fa Hai and followed her, calling out, "Wife!" Bai Sujin was in a bad mood. "Don't call me wife. We don't even know each other. And it's impossible, even if you were my future husband. Now, there is no future between you and me. We won't have anything to do with each other in the future." Bai Sujin faced Prince Bo Jun and roared, "Bo Jun, return my sister, little Qing." Su Xian shouted, "Since you are my wife in your next life, then you'll be my wife for all eternity." He rushed out of Xidagarba Temple without hesitation. Inside the temple, only the 2 old demons who were coerced were left. They looked at each other and secretly sized up the army of ghosts and deities blocking the entrance of Xidagarba Temple, then knelt down decisively. They knelt in front of Xidagarba Bodhisattva and kowtowed, saying, "We have realized our mistakes. We know our sins are grave, and it's too late for regrets. Bodhisattva, please forgive us and allow us to cultivate to atone for our sins." Xidagarba Bodhisattva didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He ordered the Arhut to take the 2 away and choose a day to shave. Xuetu seemed to look back unintentionally. His mouth moved slightly as he thought to himself, "It's over. These 2 are dead for sure. You dare to change your appearance just because the demon ancestor is watching. Even if you want to die, this is not the way to do it." After saying that, he shook his head and went up to the army of ghosts and deities. Chapter 1325. In the next moment, blood light surged into the sky, and a blood tide that drowned Avicii hell appeared in front of the Earth Bodhisattva Hall. A ray of blood light passed through countless gods and demons and arrived on the scorched stone. The blood light flashed, and countless blood shadows came out of the body, pouncing towards the heavenly soldiers that were like mountains and forests. The heavenly soldier officer in the lead was a burly human man. He gently flicked the scabbard at his waist, and the saber hummed in the scabbard. The sound was like the roar of an old dragon, clear and deep. This saber was a divine weapon made by the heavenly courts. It was called Ming Hong. Ming Hong was a saber made by the Emperor of Heaven. It was made from the copper of the first mountain, burned with the divine fire of Zhurong, and tempered with the Xianming cold qi. It was originally a saber made by the Emperor of Heaven, and then it was used by the Emperor of Heaven to control the prosperity of Yihuai. Then, the heavenly court's heavenly crafting platform imitated the Ming Hong saber and forged 30,000 divine sabers. They were all made from the copper of the first mountain, the divine iron of the North Sea, and the beautiful jade of Kunlun. The heavenly crafting platform burned with the purple extreme heavenly fire and tempered with the Tiani true water. On the day the saber was completed, 2 divine sabers, one male and one female, turned into vermilion birds and flew down to the primordial world while the divine craftsman of the heavenly crafting platform was careless. The style of the divine saber was named after the Emperor of Heaven's saber, Ming Hong. But after the primordial world shattered, it had an even more prominent name, Vermilion Bird. Why would the Shuetu king have such a deep impression of the saber in the hands of the heavenly court's officer? Because in the heavens era, the 2 Ming Hong sabers that escaped appeared again. The people did not know its name, but because it could transform into the form of the divine bird Vermilion Bird, it had the power to suppress the world. In the hands of a Tao lord in the future, it became famous and became famous. Thus, it was called Vermilion Bird. Vermilion Bird was a famous divine saber in the heavens era. However, when the heavenly courts ruled the primordial world, they were only standard divine weapons. There were as many as 30,000 of them. Most of these 30,000 Vermilion Bird sabers were given to the core members of the heavenly court's heavenly army, such as the military officers. The famous peerless divine weapon of the later generations was the weapon of a lieutenant in the celestial heavens. The lieutenant rushed forward with his blade and slashed down. The divine weapon in his hand emitted a crimson-red vital energy. It had a head and eyes, and the blade Qi turned into a pair of wings. It was the divine bird Vermilion Bird. The blade Qi turned into the Vermilion Bird's slash, cutting the hundreds of blood shadows in front of it in half and burning them to ashes. Shuetu had transformed into countless blood gods, so he could naturally sense the fates of those blood gods. Because he rarely saw a famous godly weapon, he paid extra attention to the lieutenant. When he sensed that his blood gods had been cleanly killed by the lieutenant, Shuetu was shocked. It turned out that the heavenly courts were not so rich that they could give the divine saber to a mere lieutenant in the heavenly army. Instead, a mere lieutenant in the heavenly courts was not any weaker than the famous person with the saber. Shuetu King's real body turned into a bloody shadow and moved freely among the countless blood gods. As long as he was fast enough, his real body would be among the countless blood shadows. He was just careless just now. He did not think that the lieutenant would be able to easily kill the blood gods that had become a taboo in the hands of the Blood Sea demon Tao in the future. Monkey King leaned on a golden cudgel and laughed. "You rascal! If you think that the heavenly courts that have suppressed the untainted world are like the useless chickens and dogs of those sects after the untainted world was broken, then you are gravely mistaken." The blood-soaked demon lord instantly teleported to the blood god's son in front of the celestial court's right guard. The lieutenant of a celestial court led the 20 celestial soldiers and charged forward one after another. Their team formed a whole and attracted the countless ghosts and gods to surround and kill the phantom of the weapon grandmaster in the sky. The demon god Chiyu released a trace of murderous aura and condensed a Chiyu flag above their heads. The 20 heavenly soldiers were only at the level of heaven immortals, but at this moment, they had the aura of a Taoist lord. In addition, the lieutenant, who was obviously an experienced golden immortal, joined hands and swung the saber light. Countless saber auras crisscrossed and slashed out countless layers of killing formations that were full of killing intent. Such a powerful army could already rule a large world in the heavens period. For example, in the Brahma world where Fan Wujia was born, even if the second ancestor and third ancestor of the Fan family were to hold the line, the entire strength of the Fan family would be wiped out by the 20 heavenly soldiers led by the lieutenant of the heavenly courts. Perhaps only the mysterious elder ancestor of the Fan family, who had lived for an unknown period of time and had become a longevity demon, could win by a narrow margin. Shuetu swore on the Blood Sea that if 1/10 of the Fan family could survive, it would be Hao Yan's blessing. Every step of the lieutenant was on the ground. His saber was not fancy, and he did not use any tricks. He only polished his vital qi and condensed all his dharma power and aura into the saber. It was ordinary, but the vermilion bird that had turned into a god was vivid, sharp, ruthless, unparalleled, and difficult to block. In Shuetu's opinion, this saber was not inferior to the famous saber god who made the vermilion bird saber famous in the future. Perhaps the atmosphere of the primordial world was simple, and the divine sense was not as fancy as the heavens period, but this serious saber had the essence of using a saber in a simple and unadorned manner. Shuetu only retracted the bloodlight, and the lieutenant's saber slashed through the air. The blood god collapsed upon contact, and the vermilion bird saber seemed to have slashed a shadow. The scarlet vermilion bird's vital chi easily burned the blood shadow, but the lieutenant frowned. The blood sea hid the soul, and all living beings in the primordial world had life. They moved and breathed, and their vitality flourished. However, under the appearance of breathing, pulse, breath, and blood flow, where was the true source of life? All living beings could feel the appearance of life, but they could not touch the true essence of life under the appearance. Therefore, when Shuetu King hid his origin, the blood shadow that he killed was just an indifferent appearance. The true essence of Shuetu King's life had long been refined into a formless existence, and the bloodlight was just an appearance. This was the blood devil. Other than the devils who had truly comprehended the blood sea Tao, no one knew what their essence was. When the lieutenant's saber force ended, he turned, and the elite heavenly soldiers behind him immediately followed up. There was not a single flaw in the entire process. Even though the lieutenant's aura rose and fell, the formation was one, and the other heavenly soldiers followed suit, using their own aura to make up for it. There was no flaw that could be exploited. Therefore, Shuetu King could only kill forcefully. He dragged a ray of bloodlight and appeared from the void. The lieutenant, who had retracted his saber, laughed, and the vermilion bird in his hand let out a long cry. The choice was a matter of life and death. The vermilion bird saber that was retracting received the help of the heavenly soldier's aura from both sides, but it did not recover. Instead, it turned and suddenly swung out with an even stronger aura. Just as the crimson rainbow was about to pierce through Shuetu King's true body, the shadow of Shuetu became clearer in the young lieutenant's eyes. On the contrary, the ray of bloodlight in front of him became blurry. This even fiercer saber still did not achieve anything, and the blood shadow dissipated easily again. The lieutenant turned back in shock and anger. He had already lost track of Shuetu's day. However, the two heavenly soldiers who worked together to fill in the gap met the eyes of their respected captain when the lieutenant turned back. The two heavenly soldiers only saw a ray of bloodlight in the lieutenant's eyes. In an instant, all the blood in their bodies left their bodies and turned into countless blood shadows that pounced in all directions. The lieutenant raised the vermilion bird saber again, roared angrily, and slashed in all directions. He killed most of the blood shadows, but there were still some that slipped through. The 5 heavenly soldiers were pounced on by the blood shadows, and all the blood in their bodies was instantly sucked away, turning them into human skins. The lieutenant roared angrily. Before the blood shadows left their bodies, he used the vermilion bird divine saber to kill them. However, those who looked into his eyes again were his brothers who had been through life and death with him. The moment his eyes landed on them, their lives were taken away. At this moment, the lieutenant finally understood that the Shuetu King had already hidden in his eyes. The lieutenant laughed loudly, and the saber light reversed and swept across his own eyes. A tragic aura overflowed on the battlefield. Most of the ghosts and deities in the netherworld were useless. They were pounced on by the blood gods and turned into blood shadows. As long as the Shuetu King kept moving between the blood gods, he would only need to be slightly more serious to deal with the troublesome characters that occasionally appeared. However, the real heavenly army of the heavenly court, even if it was just a small team, had people that forced the Shuetu King to use all his strength. The last fierce saber strike from the lieutenant had truly moved the Shuetu King. However, although he was moved, the vermilion bird saber chi killed the blood shadow in the lieutenant's eyes. At the same time, it also ended his life. A line of heroic souls returned to the cycle of reincarnation. The Shuetu King, on the other hand, was only slightly affected by the saber chi. His face was slightly pale, but it was not even a light injury. The strangeness of the blood sea demon body was far beyond anyone's imagination. It involved the forbidden source of life when the demon ancestor of the river Styx was researching creation. If the rock demon king had not used the innate, inextinguishable divine aura to lock on to the Shui Tu king's essence, actually, as the direct descendant of the blood sea, the Shui Tu was not afraid of the rock demon king. Half of the 20 heavenly soldiers had been killed by the Shui Tu king hidden in the lieutenant's eyes. Seeing their captain committing suicide, they did not retreat. Instead, they roared in grief and indignation. Their eyes were resolute, and they charged towards the Shui Tu king without fear of death. The Shui Tu king merely caught the vermilion bird divine saber that had fallen from the lieutenant's hand and waved it casually. The divine bird vermilion bird materialized again. This time, the divine saber soared into the sky like a real vermilion bird. It spread its wings and broke away from the Shui Tu king's hand. Like a vermilion bird flying towards freedom, it swept past a heavenly soldier. Its wings were the saber chi of the divine saber. It swept past the neck of the heavenly soldier, and with another turn, it cut another heavenly soldier in half. Crimson-red divine blood splattered, resonating with the banner of Chi-Yu above their heads. The horrifying weapon energy boosted the morale of the remaining heavenly soldiers. They charged towards this unprecedented strong enemy with even more tragic vigor. They risked their lives and charged towards the vermilion bird divine saber, but they were easily slaughtered. After being stained with the blood of its former master and the dozens of brothers who had gone through life and death together with its former master, the crimson-red color on the vermilion bird divine saber became even brighter. It shook again, but this time it was a sorrowful cry. It was no longer the clear and heavy cry of the saber, but the cry of a cuckoo crying its own blood. The Shui Tu king withdrew the vermilion bird divine saber, wiped it with his hand, and the blood stained the divine saber red. The Shui Tu king sighed and said, "What a good saber of remembrance. If I, the sky demon blood saber, was still here, I wouldn't mind fulfilling your wish. Unfortunately, I don't have my weapon anymore, and I can't fulfill your loyalty." The blood stains seeped into the vermilion bird divine saber, and the divine saber hummed again. But this time, it was filled with a brutal murderous intent and a sharp, high-pitched humming. When the vermilion bird soared into the sky again, it had already turned into a demonic saber, or rather, the vermilion bird demonic saber. Before the divine bird soared into the sky, no one knew the difference between the Shui Tu king with the demonic saber and the Shui Tu king without the saber. But they immediately understood. When the vermilion bird soared into the sky, the blood-colored light pierced through the 80,000 li celestial demon formation. The blood river grinds the blade to wash away the red rust. When the white rainbow rises, the frost is seen. Take this. The Shui Tu king leaped into the sky and turned into a long rainbow. The vermilion bird demonic saber also turned into a rainbow beside him. The blood-colored light suddenly seemed to have a soul and a sharp edge. Originally, the blood-colored light was only difficult to deal with because it was extremely fast, and the countless blood gods were only slightly troublesome to deal with. Although the blood-colored light was annoying, it could only hurt people with its ferocious aura. Ordinary ghosts and deities would naturally be devoured in a single pounce. But among the countless ghosts and deities present, how many ghosts and deities were ordinary? When the blood-colored light landed on their bodies, it only slightly damaged their vital energy. But now, the blood-colored light had a sharp edge to it. In an instant, the Shui Tu king spun millions of blood gods, and every time he turned the vermilion bird demonic saber, the sharp saber aura would come in and out, killing everything in front of the blood gods. The Shui Tu king only lacked the sharpness to kill gods when he saw gods, to kill Buddhas when he saw Buddhas, to cut through everything. Therefore, the blood-colored rainbow could no longer be controlled. The Shui Tu king stepped into the formation. This was already the depths of the formation formed by millions of ghosts and deities. He raised his saber and smiled, looking disdainfully at the surroundings. With a casual wave of his saber, he traversed thousands of li in the formation, finally angering the few high and mighty people. The ghost wearing an emperor's robe appeared in the formation, and there was a hint of majesty in the space between his brows. He turned to look at Zhang Jiao, who was beside him, and asked with a hint of superiority, "Was he one of those people that day?" Zhang Jiao nodded lightly. "This person is the blood demon under Prince Mu's command. Looking at his supernatural power, he is a direct descendant of the Blood Sea, a direct descendant of the River Styx." The majestic ghost frowned slightly, and his expression was cold. He looked at the Shui-Tu King and sneered. "You have some ability. No wonder you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Unfortunately, under Dara, all are ants. This ant is bigger, but he is still an ant." Then, the ghost in the emperor's robe stretched out his right hand, which was hidden in his sleeve, and pressed lightly. He pressed on the blood-colored rainbow that traversed the sky. Instantly, the Shui-Tu King's charge was stopped. The Shui-Tu King's face turned red, but the blood-colored rainbow seemed to be frozen in the void, unable to move an inch forward. An invisible and heavy pressure, comparable to the prehistoric continent's Mount Buzhou, caused the Shui-Tu King's blood-colored rainbow to move slowly in the stagnant void, like an earthworm drilling into an indestructible crack in a rock. Inch by inch, the Shui-Tu King held the demon knife and slashed open the void that was as solid as Mount Buzhou's bronze. He created a sliver of space for himself to move. As long as there was a sliver of space, he would be able to perform the transformations of the Blood Sea Demon Tao. As long as there was a sliver of space, he would be able to play countless tricks, and he would be able to advance and retreat at will. However, the majestic ghost's second attack followed closely. His jade-white, creamy right hand pressed into the void where the Shui-Tu King was. This palm slapped the Shui-Tu King forcefully into the void. The blood-colored rainbow suddenly dissipated. If the Shui-Tu King had not grasped the last bit of qi and used the knife in his hand to slice open a sliver of space before the palm slammed down, allowing the blood-colored rainbow to spin within and catch a few changes, his soul would have long been scattered into nothingness. Even so, the Shui-Tu was already heavily injured, and only a sliver of the blood-colored rainbow managed to escape. The majestic ghost was rather surprised. The demon had some unexpected abilities and had actually managed to drag out an ignoble existence for a while. He could only press down again, preparing to launch another attack to completely disperse the sliver of blood-colored rainbow. However, at this moment, a golden bridge shook off his hand, guiding the sliver of blood-colored rainbow back to the scorched rock. Yuan Yu's face was expressionless, and he sneered, "What's so great about Dara? Under Dara, all are ants. How arrogant, how domineering. Do you know who's protecting this ant? But if you press down on him, you'll be going with me. No, you'll be going against the demon masters of the demon Tao, and you'll be embarrassing the demon Tao. If we can't protect him, we'll all be beaten up when we return, understand?" The Monkey King shook his head. "I don't need to. I'll be in charge of beating you guys." Yuan Yu immediately changed his words. "We'll be beaten up by Brother Monkey. Do you know that? You're so arrogant. How dare you touch the elder ancestors' people? Try and do it." The majestic ghost slowly said, "I'm King Qingguang. I want to see if there's anyone in the primordial three realms that I can't afford to offend. He's the elder ancestor of the River Styx, and he's extending his hands into the Netherworld's territory. Do you think I can't do anything to his subordinates?" Yuan Yu said angrily, "Brother Monkey?" He's looking down on the elder ancestor. The Monkey King ignored his instigation and chuckled. "I've said it before, if you guys want me to attack again, I'll clean up my sect first. Are you from our sect?" Yuan Yu was instantly stunned. He didn't dare to play tricks anymore. He sighed and said, "It wasn't easy for Shui-Tu to get serious for a while, but he was seriously injured by you. Now, I'm finally going to get serious." Chapter 1326. Yuan Yu pointed his finger, and a golden bridge came from the void and landed beneath his feet. The golden bridge lifted Yuan Yu up and placed him on the killing formation formed by countless ghosts and deities. Yuan Yu stood on the golden bridge and looked down. The countless ghosts and deities were activating the formation, covering with Jiaoshi and the underworld's Yudu city for tens of millions of miles. Wind, earth, water, and fire surged, attacking the boundless darkness. Yuan Yu stood on the bridge, detached from all of this. Qingguang Wang saw this and thought to himself, this divine art is quite mysterious, but the laws of Tao in the underworld of Yudu city coincide with my Yanluo Tao. The underworld is like a kingdom of God under my rule. Any divine art must be coupled with the Tao of heaven and earth and trigger the laws of the world to achieve twice the result with half the effort. Since this divine art of his is coinciding with the underworld, it can't escape from my Yanluo Tao. Wait till I see everything with my Dharma eyes. I'll be able to see through the wonders of his divine art. I won't be his match anymore. With a thought, Qingguang Wang opened his Dharma eyes and followed the lines of the laws of Tao to observe the golden bridge divine art beneath Yuan Yu's feet. In the eyes of the Dharma eye, the golden bridge was made up of countless complicated restrictive spells and divine arts. Layers upon layers of extremely complicated restrictive spells and runes of the great Tao manifested in Crimson Script, Cloud Script, Dragon Script, Phoenix Script, Erosion Script, True Talisman, Shaman Script. All sorts of extremely complicated runes that describe the great Tao formed an extremely complicated structure of the Golden Bridge. This kind of perspective was Dara's ability to measure the world. Spells and divine arts were formed by following the principles of heaven and earth. Ordinary cultivators were clueless about the principles of heaven and earth. They had to visualize gods and demons, write talismans, consume food, absorb vitality, offer sacrifices to heaven and earth, borrow the power of the ghosts and deities, or follow the methods of cultivation summarized by the predecessors to cultivate their divine arts. They were clueless about their own cultivation, so how could they observe other people's divine arts? Only by achieving the Tao of Dara and participating in the creation of the universe could they understand the most fundamental principles of heaven and earth. Therefore, in their eyes, the divine sense that was cultivated through experience was the most basic truth. This kind of truth was originally difficult to express, as it was extremely mysterious. However, there were great mediums who had accurately described it and formed all kinds of talismans in the untainted land. The three Pristines loved red books. The Gautama Buddha loved the seeds of Sanskrit. The dragon tribe had dragon characters. The phoenix had phoenix emblems. The innate deities used the Great Way to carve natural etchings. The Xianmen looked down on heaven and earth and brewed talismans in their chests. The acquired deities wrote their real names with clouds. The Wu tribe tattooed their bodies. The demon ancestor of the river Styx ruled the world with numbers, but he was not a god. Xuetu tilted his head and asked with droopy eyes, "Why do the other great mediums use talisman scripts, and only our demon sect uses devil numbers?" When Goku recalled his long life of studying magic number, he couldn't help but shiver. He slapped Xuetu and said, "You talk too much." Qingguang Wang looked at the complicated rune structure and couldn't help but feel a headache. Forget about the other runes. After all, he, King Qingguang, was not an illiterate Grand Luo. Only the core of the Golden Bridge's runic structure, the extremely complicated calculations that seemed like a heavenly book, the complicated mathematical rules, and the simplest runes that completely transcended the objective world, using logic, anti-logic, and even more complicated logic behind anti-logic to build a pure rational system. Normal runes represented concepts, such as the name of prehistoric things, or concepts that were closer to Tao on top of the name, such as the 5 elements, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, or the 4 elements, such as the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body, or the 6 senses, etc. But the runes of the demonic path were completely different. The most basic ones represented the Yang trigram and Yin trigram, which was also Yin and Yang, 0 and 1, binary system. The yang trigram and yin trigram runes formed an even more complicated numerical system. The demonic path symbols used the most basic yin and yang to form the concept of numbers. Then, on the basis of numbers, the four basic operations, equations, integral, differential, matrix, group theory, geometry, algebra, function, manifold. At this point, Qinguang King could still barely understand it. The runes of the demonic path were getting more and more abstract. In terms of irrational numbers and imaginary numbers, they had surpassed cognitive logic. Using irrational logic and mathematics outside of a normal space-time reference frame had already driven Qinguang King crazy. For example, mathematics without time. The calculation of formulas had no concept of steps. 1 plus 2 by 4 was the simplest four operations. But in the two-dimensional world, without time, 1 plus 2, 2 by 4, or even 1 by 4 occur at the same time. Could they still get the solution? Other than non-standard space-time mathematics, there was also irrational mathematics, imaginary mathematics. There was also infinite mathematics that transcended the limit. When Monkey King was learning these, there was a period of time when he had a strange view of the world. For example, there was a period of time when he first spat out the peach pit and then ate the peach. He first arrived at the destination, then set off. Don't ask the monkey how he did it. Once he understood the irrational mathematical system, anyone could do it. Just the confusion of cause and effect and the confusion of time were just child's play. The demonic number was purely rational mathematics. Therefore, it was very strange. It was a rune without any concept of normality. The demonic number runes did not represent temperature, distance, or anything that existed. In other words, when the demonic number runes existed, they were beyond the real world and had no meaning. This was because when the patriarch of River Styx created the demonic number, he pursued the principle of being absolutely correct and unfalsifiable. It did not rely on other things and existed independently. Therefore, if the demonic number runes wanted to have any meaning in reality, they had to rely on the number, which was the rune system created by Emperor Fuxi. The prenatal 8 trigrams and the postnatal 8 trigrams linked the real world with the absolute pure mathematical system. Only then could the demonic number runes describe reality. Therefore, the pure demonic number runes had no meaning. They only had meaning when they described reality. 3. This was because the demonic number created by River Styx was independent of the great Tao of primordial. It was the principle of not relying on the primordial. In the model of Wuji Taiji, all the great Tao, including the great Tao of massacre, nothingness, and destruction of River Styx, did not exist. This was because there was no primordial. Without existence, where would there be destruction? Without existence, where would there be nothingness? It was the same for the 3 pure Taos. Without existence, where would there be Shi, Yuan, and Xian? These principles could not be separated from the main body of primordial. It was because the powerful beings created primordial that these principles became the great Tao. Therefore, the 3,000 Taos were not at ease. Only mathematics was free. The structure of the Golden Bridge was constructed using the demonic number runes as the logic and fundamental principle. With the number as the vein, it was constructed with the help of other runes as tools. King Qinguang could see the fundamental principle of the Golden Bridge. However, cold sweat broke out on his forehead. His mind was in a mess. The various principles that were inverted and even went against the logic of his cognition. It could be said to be the logic of anti-logic. This caused his primordial spirit to tremble. He felt that his understanding of the great Tao had become confused. He forcefully cut off this part of his memory and endured the demonic principles in his mind. He roared, "Demonic number. So it's Dara from the demonic path. I wonder which demon master is playing this joke on me?" It was not wrong that Dara had the ability to see through the fundamental principles. However, one had to understand it first. Yuan Yu did not learn any profound principles of the demonic path. He did not understand any of the 3 great Tao of slaughter, destruction, and nothingness. He only touched on some of the principles passed down by River Styx and some of the principles he created in primordial. For example, the flaw of the law of reincarnation, the 9 questions of the netherworld, the great Tao of water element circulation, the Milky Way, the river diagram, and river Styx. He also dabbled in the purely rational mathematics, the demonic number rune system. Hearing King Qingguang's question, Yuan Yu smiled and said, Yin Yang Demon Master, subordinate of the demon ancestor of river Styx. Greetings, fellow Taoist King Qingguang. So it's Yin Yang Demon Master. Since the Blood Sea was opened and river Styx created the new demonic path, you have been the most low profile. Although the name Yin Yang Demon Master has been spread in primordial, I have never heard of you. So the Demon Master has been acting in the name of the righteous path. Today is the first time you have interfered with the affairs of primordial in the name of Yin Yang Demon Master. That's rare. Yuan Yu smiled bitterly and said, That's true. The first time Yin Yang Demon Master acted was to destroy the underworld. I didn't expect that. I'm actually one of the demon masters who destroyed the underworld. That demon corpse, Tao Master spoke ambiguously. I thought that the person who sent Yin Jun on his way was the Xingtian god, but he revealed intentionally or unintentionally that he had also participated in the killing of the 10 Yin Jun. Now it seems that I have to send Yin Jun on his way before I can turn around and ask Siddhartha Bodhisattva to return to heaven. Yuan Yu raised his head and sighed. I really don't want to come to this. Unfortunately, the great mediums won't ask the wishes of us chess pieces when they play chess. Yuan Yu raised the sea-calming divine pearl slightly and said, This is just a test. The next time we meet, it will be farewell forever. King Qingguang, you can't do it alone. Why don't you call the other Yin Jun gods to attack together? Otherwise, the next time we meet, I won't be the only one attacking. You all died under the joint attack of the great witch demon masters. This time, I'll give you a chance to fight one-on-one. Shameless boasting. King Qingguang was furious. You're a Yin Yang demon master. Do you only know how to spout nonsense? Don't think that you can hide from my eyes by using the devil's deceitful way. I can't see through the principles of your supernatural power when I take a closer look. Qingguang opened his eyes again. This time, he didn't look at the fundamental principles, but instead, he looked at the mysterious qi flow. It was as if one was carefully measuring and accurately ending with runes, while the other was using metaphors to express emotions, subjectively summing up the atmosphere. This time, when he looked again with his Dharma eyes, the countless restriction runes on the golden bridge disappeared, and even the image of the golden bridge became blurry. The Yuan Yu golden bridge returned to its original principle. It was actually a yin-yang taiji diagram that was spinning endlessly impossible. What's your relationship with the Tai Ching Heavenly Lord? Are you from Xuandu Heaven? King Qingguang was shocked and speechless. Yuan Yu only shook his head. Would you believe me if I said that this is just the great Tao that leads to the same destination? Taiji diagram. It's actually the Taiji diagram. No wonder this treasure is mysterious and unfathomable. It goes straight to the source of the great Tao, but does not have the connate, inextinguishable spiritual light. It's actually imitating the principles of the Taiji diagram. With the connate cardinal treasure above, it's no wonder that you can't cultivate a companion numinous treasure. Yuan Yu smiled bitterly. I'm just imitating the Taiji talisman. I learned the principles of the Taiji array in the myriad immortal array of the Jia sect. King Qingguang's face was gloomy. The Yuan Yu Golden Bridge's divine ability originated from the Taiji diagram, and the principles within it were mysterious and unfathomable. With the Taiji diagram of the great heavenly lord of Daoda, Yuan Yu's Golden Bridge had no future at all. However, because of that, the principles were perfect and flawless. It was not something that he could see through. He did not know whether this was a blessing or a curse for Yuan Yu. But to him, it was almost impossible for him to see through the flaws of Yuan Yu's divine ability. With this ability, why would he still be in the 10 halls of Yanluo? He had long become the only king Yanluo. The Taiji diagram was the principle of Taiji, and Taiji was the primordial universe, the foundation of existence. Standing on the Golden Bridge, Yuan Yu was equivalent to standing on Taiji, the universe, and the existence. No matter how terrifying the ghost god array was, or how powerful the Dharma spells were, they could not hurt him at all. If they wanted to hurt him, countless ghosts and gods could not do it. Only King Qingguang himself could use the connate inextinguishable spiritual light to surpass the Taiji diagram. Of course, if the great heavenly lord of Tao's connate cardinal treasure was here, not to mention King Qingguang's connate inextinguishable spiritual light, even if river Styx destroyed the world with the ultimate ruins, the great heavenly lord of Tao would be able to wrap the Taiji diagram and transcend it. However, because of the connate cardinal treasure, the Taiji diagram, Yuan Yu's golden bridge could not become a numinous treasure and possess the ability of Dara. This missing half a step from Dara became the fatal weakness of this divine ability. King Qingguang understood this clearly. He knew that with Yuan Yu standing on the golden bridge, there was almost nothing he could do under Dara. He could only do it himself. Chapter 13:27. Ajadi saw Yuan Yu standing on the golden bridge, still surrounded by countless ghosts and deities from the underworld. The ghosts and deities formed an unimaginable formation that surrounded Wujiaoshi. Prince Bo Jun stood on Wujiaoshi with his hands behind his back, his body turned to face them, and said, "No wonder you dare to offend me. You have the support of the Yin Yang Demon Master of the Diabolism. The Yin Yang Demon Master is shameless enough to fight with Sect Master Zhang Jiao like a primordial unity." Ajadi thought, "Not just the Yin Yang Demon Master, this monkey beside me is the Sky Fiend Tao Master of the Diabolism. What a pity." Prince Bo Jun sighed. "This time, I'm not here as I was when I was patrolling, but with the help of the underworld. Yin Luo of the 10 Divine Halls is personally taking action. The Yin Yang Demon Master won't be arrogant for long. Yin Luo of the 10 Divine Halls is the master of the underworld. Do you know that although we are all Dara, the difference between Dara and Dara is like the difference between heaven and earth, perhaps greater than any difference between Dara before?" Prince Bo Jun said conceitedly, "This time, I'll let you know that the Heavenly Court's Dara and the other forces' Dara are two completely different concepts. Now that Yin Luo of the 10 Divine Halls has taken action, perhaps only the massacred demon ancestor River Styx of your diabolism can protect you. Moreover, even Patriarch River Styx would not dare to face the combined might of King Yin Luo of the 10 Divine Halls." Monkey King laughed. "Indeed, indeed. Perhaps each of the 10 Divine Halls Yin Luo is no weaker than Patriarch River Styx." Shuetu King looked worried, and he secretly transmitted his voice to Monkey King. "Sky Fiend Tao Master, Demon Ancestor, is naturally more powerful than the 10 Divine Halls Yin Luo, but they have 10 people, while we only have 2 Demon Masters. Yin Yang Demon Master had just said that he wanted all 10 Yin Luo palaces to attack together. I wonder if that was a lie?" Monkey King said in a low voice, "Of course he's bragging. Even though Yin Luo of the 10 Halls isn't a great divine arts practitioner, he isn't someone that a small, heavenly, venerable Yuan Yu like him can deal with. I roughly calculated that he can only fight 3 at most. If he goes up and deals with 3, I won't make a fuss this time. If he dares to be lazy and pretend that he can only fight King Qingguang, I definitely won't let this fellow off." Hearing this, the Shuetu King was slightly relieved. Currently, there were only 5 Yin Luo and 2 immortal generals from the Heavenly Court, so there were only 7 Dara. If the Yin Yang Demon Master could handle 3 of them, then this Sky Fiend Tao Master was even more arrogant than the Yin Yang Demon Master. Moreover, the Sky Fiend lineage was a direct descendant of the Devil Tao, so he could probably handle more than 7 of them. If so, then the demonic path side had at least 10 Daras. This battle was settled. Crown Prince Bo Jun sneered and said, "Looks like the Yin Yang Demon Master's moment of arrogance has finally provoked King Qingguang to attack. The Netherworld is such a terrifying taboo. Ever since the Heavenly Court ruled the Netherworld with 10 halls, King Qingguang has been firmly in the first hall, ruling over the judgment of all souls before they reincarnate in life and death. This Netherworld is like King Qingguang's divine kingdom. Who can stop him in the Netherworld? Now, The first hall of Yinluo has yet to appear on fertile burnt rock. I wonder if King Qingguang has brought the Khanate spiritual treasure, the mirror of sin, from the first hall. Monkey King shook his head and said, if it's the mystic doors Buddhist sect, then the 10 halls of Yinluo will still have the geographical advantage in Yuta City. But we, the demonic path, are an exception. Wherever the river Styx flows, that is the demonic path's home ground. Everyone is at the doorstep, so no one can bully anyone. Huh? Crown Prince Bo Jun laughed and said, it's more like you can say that when Lady Hutu is here. You demonic path are just cowards hiding in the blood sea, struggling at death's door. Under the encirclement of the heavenly court, you are in a precarious situation. If it was before the blood sea, you could still get a little support from your patriarch River Styx, but now you're talking big in front of the 10 halls of Yinluo. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by the mighty figures of untainted land? Those who understand won't be able to laugh. Monkey King laughed and said, as for those who don't understand, so what if they laugh at us for a while? If we don't laugh, we won't be able to reach the Tao. Wu Sheng and Xue Tu were still a little worried. Although they knew that the strength of the River Styx demon ancestor was not as strong as Crown Prince Bo Jun thought, they came from a future and heard how the River Styx demon ancestor died for the underworld. However, the 10 halls of Yinluo could rule the underworld for a period of time, so they were not to be underestimated. After all, how could they find 10 useless people to keep up appearances in the land of reincarnation? The lifeless sect master looked over and saw that among the countless ghosts and deities, there was a dignified ghost with eyes like a leopard and a nose like a lion. He wore a crown on his head and held a jade tablet in front of his chest. He stretched out his hand, and a black booklet fell into his hand. The black booklet had a black cover with a white background. There were blood stains on the cover. The black cover was slippery like the skin of a living creature. The skin was tough and soft. Someone took a piece of it and wrapped it around the cover of the booklet. When the book was flipped open, lines and lines of strange characters were written on it. Qingguang Wang was having a hard time trying to decipher those words. Just a glance at those mysterious words was enough to make Tai Jin dizzy. Those mysterious words seemed to be distorted on the paper, making people feel like they had encountered some kind of great terror. The ghosts around King Qingguang turned their heads, not daring to look at the black book. Even the Monkey King became a little more serious, and the Xue Tu King exclaimed in a low voice, could it be the Book of Life and Death? According to the records of the Blood Demon tribe, the Book of Life and Death is not an ordinary Khanate spiritual treasure, but the Book of Death. It symbolizes one of the 3 talents of untainted land, and is where the destiny of the underworld lies. Legend has it that it was given by the Emperor Heaven to manage the land of reincarnation. In the Book of Death, the great secrets of all living beings in reincarnation are recorded in the language of death. The Book of Life and Death used by the judges is only a part of the book that is connected to this Khanate spiritual treasure. The real Book of Life and Death is guarded by the Master of the Underworld and guarded by the 10 temples of Yinluo. It is a spiritual treasure that controls the destiny of the underworld, and it can be said to be the most precious treasure of the underworld. The Monkey King shook his head and said, it is not as scary as you think. The Book of Life and Death reveals all the secrets of all living beings in the untainted land, and it even has the imprint of all living beings' true spirits. It can be said that no one in the 3 realms can escape from some kind of taboo. They will be killed by the ancient evil forbidden by the law of reincarnation, and even their divine souls cannot escape. Even I, old son, can't stop it. However, Dara is not restricted. The Book of Life and Death can control all living beings in the untainted land, but it can't control Dara, nor can it control Dara. If the Emperor of Heaven were to read the Book of Life and Death personally, even I, old son, would be afraid. After all, before Lady Hutu created reincarnation, the souls of all living beings had no one to rely on. I don't know how many terrifying and forbidden things were born. These things were suppressed by the law of reincarnation and turned into a part of the darkness in Yuta City. Although the Book of Life and Death was not given by Lady Hutu, It is one of the trump cards that the Emperor of Heaven used to control the underworld. It can also activate the indescribable darkness in Yudu City and control those forbidden creatures. No, they are not even living beings, nor are they living beings. They are not souls of the dead, but taboos that transcend life and death. They are evil spirits born from the souls of all living beings in the untainted land in the darkness. These evil spirits that were formed before the creation of reincarnation during the ancient primordial era only exist in two places. One is Yudu, where countless ghosts hid back then, and the other is where Earth-een is the extremely filthy netherworld blood sea. The evil spirits in Yudu City were sealed in the darkness of Yudu City by Hudu's law of reincarnation, while the evil spirits in the nether blood sea were used by the ancestor to create something. Monkey King gave Shui Tu a knowing look. Shui Tu and Wu Sheng looked at each other, their faces ashen. Ajati's scalp went numb. He said, carefully, "The primordial evil spirits are the predecessors of the primordial evil demons in the blood sea. I can't believe there are such terrifying things in the darkness of Yudu City. After the demon ancestor created those primordial evil demons, he was troubled by them and had to seal them in the bottom of the blood sea. As long as the blood sea is not dry, they will never be able to break out of the seal. The book of life and death can actually control these things. Doesn't that mean the Yin-Yang Demon Lord is going to?" Monkey King shook his head. Not all evil spirits are that terrifying. After all, evil spirits became the taboo at the bottom of the blood sea, and the madness of the ancestor river Styx when he was experimenting. The evil spirits sealed by Lady Hutu are just raw materials to create those evil demons. Moreover, those evil demons that were sealed in the bottom of the blood sea are the most terrifying ones among the evil creatures created by the demon ancestor. Those that are slightly less terrifying have been banished to the Mahesvara in the ultimate. As King Qingguang's expression became more and more solemn, he finally flipped the book of life and death to a certain page. Yin Jun flipped open the taboo book and began to read the mysterious words on the paper. From King Qingguang's mouth came an extremely obscure and strange language, like the rustling of something crawling in the darkness. Then, it suddenly became high-pitched and sharp. It was neither fast nor slow, with a cadence that was neither fast nor slow. It was like the overlapping of countless soft whispers, and also like the distorted mantra of the great Tao. The book of life and death in the hands of a normal judge only hid some key information. It was still a record of all living beings in the cycle of reincarnation, and it was also written in the Normaline language. King Qingguang could only read some things that were hidden, such as the imprint of the true spirit and some taboo records. However, the book of life and death in King Qingguang's hands was not the original Khanate spiritual treasure. The original treasure of the netherworld was something that King Qingguang would not dare to bring out, no matter how brave he was. This was a taboo book written in the netherworld language. It recorded some existences that did not belong to living beings or souls in the cycle of reincarnation. These things could not even be said to be living beings. The cycle of reincarnation managed all living beings, and dead spirits. Everything that had a spirit entered the cycle of reincarnation. Reincarnation could not manage stubborn rocks, material things, and dead things. However, some things were in between. They were not living beings or dead spirits in the ordinary sense, and they did not have a spirit in the ordinary sense either. Instead, they had a demonic nature, an evil nature, and a characteristic that was neither living nor dead. This kind of existence existed before the cycle of reincarnation was created. Lady Hutu felt that since they could not enter the cycle of reincarnation, and they had the characteristics of anti-living beings, she could only seal them in the darkness of Yudu City. They became the targets of the underworld suppression. River Styx was very interested in these evil spirits. Not only did he study their existences in depth, he even modified them. They belonged to some kind of evil beings. The so-called evil beings were existences that could not be defined by the cycle of reincarnation. They were neither living nor dead, neither spiritual nor dead things. The form of life completely surpassed the concept of what life itself could contain. Just like what Monkey King said, the first batch of evil spirits were not that scary. They were strange, twisted, and went against the nature of life that was accidentally born by the hand of God. That was until River Styx became interested in them. He made all kinds of modifications that completely twisted and went against the nature of life. River Styx claimed that it was a creation that expanded the concept of life, while other powerful beings thought that it was a taboo experiment that distorted life. Only then did they become so scary. That was why those that were born naturally were called evil spirits, while those that were created by River Styx were called evil spirits. When the Emperor of Heaven gave out the Book of Life and Death, he set up another book of evil in between the Yin book that managed the souls and the Yang book that managed the lifespan of the living. He used the language and words of the evil beings that were close to the level of gods to record their fates. King Qingguang was holding the Book of Evil. He could control the evil beings by reading the words recorded in it. As King Qingguang's voice became more and more twisted, countless ghosts and deities started to tremble in fear. Many ghosts screamed in extreme fear. Many Yin gods started to plead with King Qingguang, "Your Majesty, stop reading it. Let's go and kill that bastard together. Your Majesty, please stop reading it. Your Majesty, if you read it again, I'll beat you to death." King Qingguang, are you rebelling? King Qingguang turned a deaf ear to him. Many Yin gods could no longer suppress the fear in their hearts and charged towards King Qingguang. At this time, another emperor-robed ghost god appeared beside King Qingguang. With just a glance, the ghost gods that rebelled didn't dare to come forward. This was King Chujiang, who was in charge of hell. "You deserve to die." King Chujiang directly sent those ghosts and deities to hell at the bottom of the charred rock. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva couldn't bear to sigh. He couldn't bear to watch King Qingguang's act of summoning evil beings. Under the golden bridge that Yuan Yu built, the wind, earth, water, and fire suddenly retreated. The boundless darkness of Yudu City suddenly invaded. The golden bridge emitted light and suppressed the darkness under the bridge. However, this time, the golden bridge that was invincible had a problem. Under the illumination of the golden light, the darkness did not disperse. Instead, it surged like boiling water. The same language that King Qingguang chanted previously came from the darkness. However, it was even more twisted and went against the nature of living beings. This was a kind of strange characteristic that was completely opposite to life and spirituality. It could be called evil. The spotless golden bridge gradually dimmed in the clear darkness. Finally, the darkness spread to the bottom of the golden bridge. Although it was dazzling, it was immediately repelled by the golden light emitted by the golden bridge. However, a black handprint appeared on the cornerstone at the bottom of the golden bridge. Yuan Yu stared at the darkness under the bridge expressionlessly. He seemed to be staring at something in the darkness. However, rationality told everyone that it was impossible, because no divine light or magic eyes could see through the darkness of Yudu City. Yuan Yu's golden bridge was the symbol of the existence of Taiji. If the darkness could invade the golden bridge, didn't it mean that the nameless evil beings could invade and distort the existence of Taiji? This meant that these evil beings could distort the primordial world and turn the entire universe into a world suitable for them to live in. One of the ghosts and deities that surrounded Yuan Yu looked at the darkness under the golden bridge. He was so frightened that he fell into the formation. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the darkness. However, it caused a disturbance in the darkness. The golden bridge was already 1/5 submerged by the darkness. Yuan Yu, who was on the bridge, still did not move. However, the darkness had already begun to corrode the formation set up by the ghosts and deities that surrounded him. The darkness surged like a tide. With one slap, it drowned a corner of the formation. The millions of ghosts and deities could not retreat in time and disappeared into the darkness. When the darkness retreated, The millions of ghosts and deities reappeared. However, they were all expressionless, completely silent. King Chujiang's attack completely shattered this corner of the formation and sent these people into the darkness. A Yin god that was either lucky or unlucky was only invaded by the darkness up to his waist. When the darkness retreated, everything below his waist came back to life. The lower half of the body of a ghost actually had flesh and blood, just like when he was alive. Half was a Yin god, the other half was a Yang body. Before the Yin god could even react, King Chujiang had completely shattered him. At this time, the dead Yang body had actually turned into a soul body again. However, the upper half of the soul body had already dispersed. What shocked the ghosts and deities of the underworld was that life and death was the behavior of a whole life. They had never heard of a body part that could die. This was because the body part was only a body that contained the soul. It did not have a soul. However, now they saw a soul with the lower half of its body. It seemed that after being distorted by the darkness, the definition of the Yin god's life had changed. The part of the body that entered the darkness was already a complete life. King Chujiang's expression turned ugly. He once again shattered that part of the soul body. However, at this time, another Yin god, not far away, cried out in fear. His lower half suddenly turned into a body of flesh and blood. The darkness had already submerged half of the Golden Bridge. It was still rising like a tide and slowly drowning upwards. Yuan Yu was surrounded by countless ghosts and deities. Amidst the invasion of the dense darkness, he stood under the protection of the golden light on the bridge. He slowly looked towards King Qingguang and King Chujiang through the tide of darkness. They were looking at each other through the formation of ghosts and deities and the darkness of Yudu City. The corner of Yuan Yu's mouth suddenly twitched slightly, revealing a mysterious and evil smile. King Qingguang's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Chapter 1328. Being able to remain so calm in the dark tide of Yudu City. Yin Yang Demon Lord Sure has a heroic spirit. You live up to your name. King Chujiang looked at Yuan Yu with his hands behind his back and praised him. Crown Prince Bo Jun sneered. He's just putting up a desperate struggle, like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Unfortunately, his Golden Bridge divine art has been broken. Soon, the darkness of Yudu City will drown his Golden Bridge, and he will die without a burial place. I know some people from the demonic path. They would rather die to pretend to be graceful. Your Highness King Chujiang, you will soon see his miserable death and regret. King Qingguang kept feeling that it wasn't that simple. He stared at Yuan Yu, who stood leisurely on the Golden Bridge, and a hesitant expression flickered in his eyes. King Chujiang, who was at the side, smiled when he saw him like this. Brother, if you're worried, why don't you retrieve the Book of Life and Death that records one's lifespan and write off his life? Even if he's a golden immortal and the innate, inextinguishable aura isn't in the book, it's still sufficient to destroy his body. It's true that Dara's innate aura is not in the Book of Life and Death, but his body is acquired. King Qingguang nodded. That's how it should be. King Qingguang ordered the judge to bring the Book of Life and Death and the Book of Yang, and a white ancient book appeared in his hand. He casually flipped the Book of Yang, and as the pages turned, countless ink characters flashed past his eyes. Every word and every sentence was the most essential imprint of all living beings in the world. Speaking of the judge's brush, it was King Qingguang's accompanying spiritual treasure. The aura at the tip of the brush seemed to be able to penetrate the origin of reincarnation, and it triggered the lives recorded in the law of reincarnation. This brush was the embodiment of Yin Luo's divine authority, and it was where the authority of reincarnation was located. The Book of Yang was an innate spiritual treasure that was connected to the fundamental records of reincarnation. Even though it was only a part of the book, with the judge's brush, it could change the vital records in the law of reincarnation. The fur on Monkey King's face trembled, and he sneered, tampering with reincarnation. King Qingguang, how dare you? What Her Highness Hoodoo has never done, a taboo that even the Emperor of Heaven has never violated. But you can do it. During the Great Shaman Demon War, Her Highness Hudu did not change the fate of a single demon soul. When the Emperor of Heaven suppressed the demons and wiped out all the rebellious subjects, he also did not change the fate of a single person. You used the great Tao of the infernal judge to forge your primordial spirit treasure, but you're actually tampering with the laws of nature and usurping the authority of the gods. After committing such a crime, King Qingguang, your time is up. King Qingguang turned a deaf ear to him. King Pingding and King Dushi stood in front of the Monkey King, preventing them from making a move. They had to deal with this troublesome yin-yang demon master first. The judge's pen fell, and the spiritual light dyed the book of life and death with a blood-red halo. Lines of yin characters emerged from the book of life and death, and they recorded the words that Yuan Yu's current body had recorded in the reincarnation. King Qingguang read 10 lines at a glance and said in surprise, "What a good yin-yang demon master. In this life, you reincarnated after the immeasurable cataclysm and entered the mystic doors One Qi sect. Your Dharma name was Xingyangzi. Under the orders of the sect master, Taoist Master Ziyang, you entered the maiden sect of the demonic path as an undercover. Later, under the name of the rogue cultivator Three Poisons, you came to the ultimate. So you came to the past after entering the ultimate. Good skills, as expected of the most mysterious yin-yang demon master among the 10 demon masters of the demonic path. River Styx sent you back to this era for a big scheme. You are like a poisonous insect that has burrowed into the underworld's vital point. If we leave you alone, you can really cause big trouble. Unfortunately, I've already learned of your scheme through the Book of Life and Death. I'm afraid you won't be able to escape today." King Chujiang and the other kings of Yinluo also came up to take a look. When they saw the record of the underworld's destruction mentioned by the Pathmaster of Corpse Demon that day, they were enraged and cursed. River Styx has the ambition of a wolf. How savage. He sent you to harm the underworld and bring disaster to the cycle of reincarnation. You deserve to die. Yuan Yu was surrounded by the ghosts and gods, and he looked at them coldly as they flipped through the reincarnation records. He stood on the golden bridge, and the darkness had already drowned the bottom of his feet. There was only a piece of golden light that was the size of a palm that was still persisting in the black tide. This last bit of spirit light was something that even the darkness of Yudu had difficulty erasing. It could only be worn away bit by bit. Therefore, Yuan Yu still had some time. Yuan Yu said calmly, "Fellow Taoists, what's the use of knowing the future? You must know that the future will not change because of this. You will all die, and you will not be able to escape. If I had known earlier, it would only add to your troubles. I really shouldn't have. Now that my fellow Taoists have peeked into my fate, you are already courting death. Even if I am unwilling, I have to kill you and send you all on your way. Execute the yin-yang demon master, namely Zhengyang Zi and Zhu Yuanyu." King Qingguang said coldly, "Die. In their lives, bringing disaster to the cycle of reincarnation is unforgivable." The other Yinluo kings also judged with cold eyes. The 5 Yinjun imbued their divine right fate into the judge's brush. As the brush fell, the netherworld trembled, and the darkness of Yudu's city stirred. The judge's brush left a thick stroke on the Book of Life and Death. The thick blood-red brush was dyed with a faint layer of blood. As the brush fell, Yuan Yu's primordial spirit was involuntarily drawn out of his body. He looked back and saw that the body he left on the Golden Bridge had already stiffened to death. Its fate was cut off, and it was sealed in the cycle of reincarnation. Even if Dara lost his physical body and his primordial spirit, he might still be able to live freely and look down on those below Dara. But when facing a powerful enemy like Dara, it was equivalent to losing half of the battle. Unless Dara, who was proficient in the great Tao of illusion, the 8 sceneries Tao Lord, and the others were proficient in the great Tao of illusions, the uncertainty between real and fake, and the spiritual realm, it was already fortunate that only 30% of his divine power remained. Icy Hell. King Chujiang made his move. He projected the icy hell of the ruler of the second hall. In Yudu, on top of the charred rock, An icy hell that was filled with endless coldness and cold suddenly appeared. The hell descended and suppressed Yuan Yu's primordial spirit. Black Rope Hell. Emperor Song struck him while he was down. Iron City Hell. Scorching Hell. King Pingding and King Dusher also made their moves at the same time. Four hells appeared, crushing down on Yuan Yu's nascent divinity. The immeasurably vast hells appeared in the darkness, each one countless times larger than the heavenly worlds from the era of the heavenly worlds. Furthermore, they were different from the heavenly worlds that nourished all living beings in nature. Each one of them was created to suppress the evil ghosts and wretched gods that resided within. The power of hells suppressed Yuan Yu's primordial spirit. Not to mention that Yuan Yu's primordial spirit form was heavily restrained by the laws of the netherworld and the power of hells. Even if Yuan Yu was at his peak, no one would think that he still had the strength to resist. Xuetu and Wu Sheng were shocked. They secretly looked around to see if there were any flaws in the great formation of ghosts and gods. Once Yuan Yu was defeated, the two were prepared to enter at any time. They could not fall into the hands of King Yanluo, lest they were suppressed in the hells. The 18 levels of hells would really suppress them until the end of time. Yin Yang Demon Master, what a pity! If he did not get involved in the muddy waters of the heavenly court, who could do anything to him? Zhang Jiao sighed. He was rather impressed by Yuan Yu's cultivation and mystic arts. Moreover, watching as a Grand Luo was subjugated by the underworld palace right before his eyes, and how the celestial court and the underworld palace were acting so unbridled. Prince Bo Jun sneered with his hands clasped behind his back. He still wants to be free after offending the heavenly court and the netherworld? Aren't you underestimating my father too much? King Chujiang said, the demon path's ambition is too great. It's fine for them to hide in the Blood Sea. If they obediently become a place where the filth of the primordial world gathers and don't show off, no one would care about them. However, the demon ancestor of the River Styx was not satisfied and insisted on interfering with the netherworld. We had no choice but to cut off the hand he extended. In the tide of darkness, on the Golden Bridge, Yuan Yu's physical body fell into the darkness, but his primordial spirit still stood tall. The projections of the four great hells appeared above his head and spread out into four boundless worlds. There was a bone-piercing cold, Xianming true water, and murderous aura surging like tides, a hellfire burning, and the entire world was like a sea of fire, and the entire world was a huge iron city. The Iron City was majestic, like Mount Buzhou had appeared in the world. The last hell was filled with a strange restrictive power, and the primordial spirit seemed to have fallen into endless shackles. The projection of hell slowly pressed down on Yuan Yu, as if the curtain had fallen. In the eyes of countless ghosts and deities, he was the demon master of the demon path. The giant of the demon path had offended the netherworld and was suppressed by the 5 Yanluo. His sinful soul was sent to hell, and even his innate, inextinguishable spiritual light was suppressed in hell. Below hell, Yuan Yu suddenly looked up and laughed. He took a step and fell into the darkness. If you knew this was going to happen, why bother? Zhang Jiao could not help but shake his head. In the eyes of the few Yanluo and the countless ghosts and deities, it was natural that Yuan Yu did not want to be humiliated, so he voluntarily fell into the darkness of Yudu City before hell suppressed him. However, the darkness of Yudu City was the cruelest and scariest hell in the netherworld, also known as the Great Darkness Hell. The 19th level of hell was known as the Great Darkness Heaven in the Demon Path. The other hells were only used to suppress ghosts and deities, but the Great Darkness Hell was created by Hudu to seal the primordial evil beings. King Qingguang and King Chujiang sneered and said, this bastard did not want to be suppressed by us, so he chose to die. The Great Darkness Hell suppresses countless evil beings. Some of the stronger evil beings even have the innate, inextinguishable spiritual light like Dara. Even Queen Hutu could not destroy them. If he fell into hell, we would not make things too difficult for him for the sake of Dara. Falling into the hands of evil beings is 1,000,000 times worse than falling into hell. Making such a choice is really stupid. Asterisk boom. Asterisk Yuan Yu's Yuan Shun plunged into the darkness, but it caused the darkness to tremble. At this moment, the eternal darkness of Yudu started to churn. Countless ancient existences in the netherworld raised their heads to look at it. Outside the gates of hell, Shentu and Yulei turned their heads back to knock on the door in astonishment. Great God, Shentu asked in astonishment, what disaster has happened to the netherworld? Why is the darkness where God is sealed, the primordial evil devils trembling? Yuan Yu's voice echoed in the darkness. Reincarnation, which is the true self. The true self, the true self, the indescribable life, the evil beings that transcended the definition of life were boiling. Countless primordial evil beings were restless. This question was asking the netherworld, reincarnation, and the underworld. It pointed to the flaws of reincarnation. The netherworld 9 questions pointed to the 9 flaws of reincarnation, which is the true self, was the transformation of life form, the definition of reincarnation, and the definition of life. The forbidden divine ability of this question could transform oneself into a form that transcended reincarnation. That was why the Tao Master of Corpse Demon split into 3 corpses, why the corpse god Old Man died 9 times, and why Brahma Wu Jia was reincarnated. King Yin Luo was the ruler of the netherworld reincarnation and the laws of reincarnation, but what they could not make up for was the netherworld 9 questions. The demonic paths, netherworld, 9 questions restrained all divine abilities of the underworld. Even a book of life and death. Even a master of the underworld. Unfortunately, Yuan Yu happened to know a little the netherworld 9 questions. The terrifying evil beings in the darkness of Yudu City only violated the essence of life and were a kind of anti-life existence. When life met anti-life, it would naturally be corroded and distorted. This was caused by the conflict between life and evil beings, and could not be changed by the will of both sides. That was why King Qingguang dared to command the evil beings in the darkness of Yudu City. He was not afraid that the demonic path, which was well-versed in evil beings, would reach an agreement with the evil beings, and both sides would attack the underworld, unless there was a way to transform life into anti-life, to become an evil being and maintain its true self. Unfortunately, there was such a way, the netherworld 9 questions created by the demon ancestor of River Styx. However, just having the 9 questions of the netherworld was useless. Although the question of who is the true self could transform the essence of one's existence. If one didn't understand the target of transformation and couldn't control this transformation and the process of transformation, then transforming into an immemorial evil being was equivalent to walking into a trap and completely self-destructing. The evil spirits in chaos were either sealed in the darkness of Yudu City by Hutu, or sealed in the bottom of the Blood Sea by River Styx, and some in the Mahesvara. Therefore, theoretically, no one could study and understand the ancient evil beings, but Yuan Yu had been to the Mahesvara, and he happened to experience the transformation of an ancient evil being. Bang! Reincarnation, which is the true self. Humans die as ghosts. Ghosts die as ghosts. Yuan Yu's primordial spirit died. His soul was destroyed, but something even more terrifying was born. So what if he was the king of Yinluo? The king of Yinluo was also a ghost. If you were a ghost, you must fear it. Yuan Yu was bathed in darkness and was reborn from the great darkness of hell. He slowly emerged from the endless black tide, and his figure made countless ghosts and gods tremble involuntarily, and made the 5 halls of Yinluo deeply afraid. In the language of ghosts, it would be, "Ghost." The book of life and death in King Qingguang's hand suddenly flipped on its own the moment Yuan Yu appeared, and lines of indescribable netherworld characters began to reorganize themselves. King Qingguang was shocked, and he looked down at the book of evil in his hand, and found that Yuan Yu's true spirit had moved from the book of Yang to the book of evil. The original Een character, Zhu Yuanyu's true name, was replaced by a line of netherworld characters, and King Qinguang recognized that the meaning of the line of netherworld characters was Gui Yinyang, ancient evil being, Gui Yinyang, Yuanyu. No, Gui Yinyang laughed. Demon Corp's Taoist master is really not smart. Why should he be afraid of the taboo of the underworld if he cultivates Hades' 9 questions? It should be the underworld that should be afraid of us, because the underworld can control the taboo, and let those who cultivate Hades' 9 questions encounter the ominous things in the darkness of Yuda's city. But those who cultivate Hades' 9 questions can completely transform into the taboo and ominous things. If you can't resist the ominous, then join them. Shuetu anxiously transmitted his voice. Demon Lord, you don't seem right now. Yuanyu, who had reincarnated as a puppet, opened the countless pairs of eyes all over his body. He now looked like a shadow, a patch of darkness. There were countless eyes in the darkness, vertical, horizontal, big, small. Some were in pairs, some were alone, some were in groups of 3, some were in groups of 9. The countless eyes looked in all directions, and a portion of the eyes gathered on Shui. Tuesday, Gei Yinyang laughed. What's wrong? I've never felt better before. Shuetu's entire body was numb from being stared at by those dense eyes. How would he dare to reply? Even Qi Yinyang's voice had turned into countless rustling sounds. Some are high, some are low, and some are high. Wukong shook the monkey fur on his body, carried the golden cudgel, and turned to leave. He said without looking back, Yinyang Demon Master is a ruthless character. Now, he can fight 5 without a problem. Old son, can finally relax. Great sage, is this really okay? Shuetu shuddered when he recalled Yuan Yu's state. Yinluo King is also a ghost. A ghost is restrained by a puppet. Yinyang Demon Lord sacrificing himself to become a puppet is indeed a good move. Didn't you see that I let him deal with the 5 Yinluo Kings? Don't worry, they are no match for Gui Yinyang. Yinyang Demon Lord's current state. Can he still change back? When humans die, they become ghosts, and when ghosts die, they become puppets. It's just a process and a state of life. Don't worry, there won't be any problems. Shuetu thought about it and agreed, but when he came back to his senses, he realized, right? To humans, ghosts are scary, okay? No one would think it's okay to become a ghost. Similarly, to ghosts and deities, becoming a puppet is an unexplainable horror. Chapter 1329. Yinyang held up the sea-calming divine pearl, and a chaotic pearl emitting 5-colored light hovered above his head. The 5-colored light pierced through the 4 layers of hell, and suddenly, an eye opened from the surging chaos in the pearl. It was the eye of Yinyang. The sea-calming divine pearl manifested the world of heavens and blocked the suppression of the 4 layers of hell. But when the giant eye opened in the world of heavens and swept across the 4 layers of hell, endless darkness emerged. They were the manifestation of the will of the immemorial evil being Yinyang. The countless evil spirits and ghosts suppressed in hell suddenly died the moment the darkness emerged. Black tears flowed from the eyes of those malevolent and terrifying evil spirits, and then darkness gushed out from their 7 orifices. Rolling darkness gushed out from every orifice of the evil spirits and evil spirits, turning into a black tide that swept across the entire hell in the blink of an eye. The 4 layers of hell converged into a huge curtain of darkness. Cold sweat broke out on King Chujiang's forehead. He said nervously, "Fellow Taoists, let's work together to send the projection of hell back. Otherwise, if all the evil spirits in hell die and turn into evil beings and become a part of Yinyang, I'm afraid he won't be able to control them." King Qinguang added, "The Nether River Patriarch created evil to deal with us, the Nether Hell. How terrifying the Yinyang Demon Master would be after his evil transformation is still a small matter. What's more, it would be a huge problem if he emptied hell and slaughtered all the evil spirits there. If this person eats up hell, he will be able to gather the laws of hell in his body and transform into hell. At that time, When yin yang devours the 18 layers of hell, the 19th layer of the great darkness hell will devour the other hells and become the only hell Tao. Yin yang will also become the incarnation of hell and the manifestation of the great darkness heaven. Almost half of the authority of the netherworld is in hell. Once yin yang becomes the great darkness heaven lord, his status will be higher than us. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Hell is where you achieved your Tao. If this person devours hell, you will have no foundation to achieve your Tao. Moreover, the authority of hell has fallen into the hands of the evil path river Styx, making him a great enemy of Buddhism. King Dusher said to Ksitigarbha Temple under Wajiao Cliff, "Bodhisattva, please make a move." Inside the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva Hall, Monkey and Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva were sitting opposite each other. No wonder the Monkey King was able to suppress his desire to fight. He was no longer as impatient as he used to be. It turned out that most of his energy was spent on restraining Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Monkey sat opposite Bodhisattva. He didn't even sit properly and was swaying left and right. Bodhisattva heard the exchange between King Dusher outside the door and raised his eyebrows. He moved his buttocks slightly, and Monkey King's hand touched the golden cudgel. He said with a cheeky smile, "Bodhisattva's benevolent heart and supreme attainments are deeply admired by my martial uncle. That's why I've come to send this invitation to invite Bodhisattva to the Blood Sea and discuss the Tao with my martial uncle." Old Fahai was a hot-tempered man. Ancestor River Styx lured the tiger away from a mountain and harbored malicious intentions. He created an ancient evil creature to sweep away hell and turn it into his great darkness heaven. It can be said that he has been plotting this for a long time. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva smiled bitterly. "I'm in charge of hell. How can I leave so easily? Great sage, please don't joke around." Monkey King laughed. "I never joke around. Bodhisattva, if you don't go, you're not giving face to my martial uncle, and if you don't give face to my martial uncle, you're not giving face to my master. My master has been very kind to me, and if you don't give face to my master, I'm going to flip out today." After saying that, Monkey King raised the golden cudgel and laughed wantonly. "So Bodhisattva, don't force me to invite you." Outside the gates of hell, Shunshu Yulei was lying at the entrance, secretly watching the show from inside. Shunshu laughed in a low voice. "Brother, you're really smart. Letting them in has indeed caused a great commotion. Now, the 10 temples of Yinluo have lost all face. But when did that monkey sneak in?" Yulei shook his head and said, "The Blood Sea has their own ways. Don't worry about it. Let's see when that ancient evil creature will destroy the 18 layers of hell." River Styx is a smart guy. He replaced the 18 layers of hell with Her Majesty's Great Darkness Hell to save face for Her Majesty. There are many powerful figures in the underworld who can't do anything, so they're all watching Yinluo make a fool of themselves. The 10 temples of Yinluo are too useless. Everyone wants to see them make a fool of themselves, so naturally, no one wants to stop them. It's their fault for stealing the position of Lord of the Underworld and losing face to the great Emperor of Bane. They've offended 1/3 of the Underworld's strength, and they've offended Her Majesty. Now, half of the Underworld's great masters have to stand by and watch. And that bastard River Styx is playing tricks behind the scenes. Great God Shinshu winked and said, "How can anyone help them?" Just as they were enjoying the show, a tall and sturdy headless figure appeared under the peach tree outside the gates of hell. Shen Tuyulei turned pale with fright when he saw this, and he hurriedly went forward to pay his respects. Shen Tuyulei greets great god Xing Tian. Xing Tian used his navel as his mouth and said in a booming voice, "Shunshu Yulei, Her Majesty has ordered us to watch the gates of hell. No one is allowed to pass within 3 days." Shunshu Yulei immediately closed the door, raised his axe, and waited solemnly, no longer peeking. Xing Tian carried his axe and went straight into the gates of hell. When he was far away, Shunshu wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and whispered, "This time, something big is going to happen." Great God Yulei smiled with subtle malice and said, But what does Yinluo's misfortune have to do with us brothers? The two of them looked at each other and chuckled. King Dusher shouted twice, but the gate of Ksitigarbha Temple was still closed. King Qin Guang said with a gloomy face, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is not willing to make a move. It seems strange. On the other side, the eyes on Yin Yang's body looked in all directions, and the cadence of the mysterious language of the underworld reverberated in the darkness of Yudu. The darkness surged, and countless evil beings of unknown species danced in the darkness, complementing the curse of Yin Yang. Then, countless rustling sounds came from the darkness, as if something was moving, and countless vague whispers that could not be heard clearly. At this time, the countless ghosts and gods that formed the spirit array felt an inexplicable force invading their divine sense, whispering in their ears. Those mysterious voices were speaking in an incomprehensible language, invading their souls, infiltrating their magic power and divine abilities. They began to gradually assimilate and began to understand those whispering consciousnesses. They began to disintegrate. One by one, the ghosts and gods of the underworld melted in the whispers, and a deep darkness emerged in their eyes. Their mouths began to chant the same language, and they began to disintegrate. Suddenly, a Yin god looked up at the sky, looking at the endless, deep darkness above Yudu City. His eyes spewed out two black mists, and the darkness rose and flowed in all directions, surging endlessly. Then his ears, nostrils, mouth, and even the pores on his body had darkness crawling out. Countless ghosts, they turned into darkness and gushed out of the 7 apertures of the ghost and turned into indiscernible ghosts. Crawling out of his pores, therefore, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the ghost turned into a ghost skin, floating with the wind and drifting in the spirit array. His soul, magic power, consciousness, self, everything was disintegrated into thoughts and integrated into the darkness around Yudu City. At this moment, countless ghosts and gods were shedding black tears. The ghosts turned into darkness and secreted continuously from their eyes. The ghosts and gods that were lucky enough to not be infected were indescribably terrified, screaming incessantly. Some of the ghosts and gods were almost scared out of their wits. They no longer formed the spirit array, dropped their flags, and fled in the direction that they thought was safe. But the tide of darkness had already grown stronger, and the ghosts in the great dark hell seethed and whispered. The great dark heaven above Yudu City was about to collapse, and the deep, endless darkness was about to drown the underworld. Yinluo of the 10 palaces roared angrily, and the other 5 Yinluo, who had been watching from the sidelines, were finally forced to take action. They held up the 14 levels of hell, and the projections of hell held up the great dark heaven that was about to collapse. The other mighty beings in the underworld who had not taken action also secretly helped, holding up the underworld so that it would not be drowned in the darkness. The door of the first hall opened. An ancient bronze mirror hung high above the stone platform. It turned into a beam of spiritual light and rushed out from the first hall, bursting with boundless power. It fell into Qin Guang Wang's hands, and an unbelievably powerful divine light shot out from the bronze mirror and shone on the sea-calming divine pearl. An eye grew on the sea-calming divine pearl, rooted in the world of the heavens, and looked at the 10 directions of the underworld, breaking the yin and yang of the 4 levels of hell. Connate spiritual treasure. Sin's mirror. The door of the 10th hall suddenly opened, and a wheel rushed out, falling into the hands of the Chakra King. The Chakra King spun the sacred wheel. He had 4 arms, and when the 4 arms exerted force together, he spun the sacred wheel, turning the entire underworld. The spiritual light shone and protected the underworld, preventing the collapsing darkness from invading. But the Chakra King hesitated and did not take action, only protecting the underworld. Meng Pe, who was standing behind him, had already raised a small bowl of soup. Seeing that the Chakra King was tactful, she did not ladle him into the bowl. In the green flower world, a celestial lord sat on the 9-colored lianhua, thrown in the 7 treasures fragrant Qianqian forest, with a nine-headed green lion spitting flames from its mouth and crowding around the throne. He was dressed in robes of cloud, and his true form was purple gold, but he revealed a bitter expression that did not match his image. A divine tiger lay in front of him, pitifully and fearfully carrying a goddess with a blurry face and shrouded in divine light. The Tai, heavenly lord of salvation, begged, "Goddess, why do you deign to come? Summon a boy to block the door of my green flower world, and I will not dare to go out. How dare I trouble Goddess to come personally?" The 9 heads of the 9-headed lion nodded frantically, showing their agreement. Yin Yang smiled faintly and smashed the sea-calming divine pearl in his hand. The 4 Yin Luo did not withdraw the hell projection despite their best efforts. As the great darkness fell, the sea-calming divine pearl smashed the hell of ice, hell of scorching flames, hell of Iron City, and hell of black rope into pieces. The majestic Iron City was shattered and fell into the darkness. The bone-chilling Xianming true water was melted by the darkness, and the scorching heat was swallowed by the darkness. The hell of black rope was obliterated without a sound. Of the 18 levels of hell, 4 had been crushed by the darkness of Yudu City, smashed to the other levels due to inertia, and half of the hell of the Rond had collapsed. Fortunately, the Chakra King intervened in time to protect the other levels of hell. The sea-calming divine pearl returned to Yin Yang's hand, and he smashed it at the Mirror of Sin. Qin Guang King roared with all his might, and the Mirror of Sin emitted a 3 feet inextinguishable spiritual light to block the sea-calming divine pearl. However, at this moment, the world manifested by the divine bead shook, and the projections of another 23 worlds suddenly appeared, strengthening the sea-calming divine bead. The 3-foot spiritual light suddenly shook, and the bronze mirror on the Mirror of Sin was smashed to the side. The darkness shook, and Yin Yang drove the boundless darkness. He laughed. "Tinyin Luo, you can't fight against the darkness and the ominous. Why don't you join us and become the ominous, the middle Yin Luo? What's the point of being a ghost? Why don't you do it?" Yin Yang's voice was like countless murmurs, and it made him laugh sinisterly. He said in a low voice, "King Qingguang." Countless eyes stared at King Qingguang, and the voice echoed in the endless darkness of Yudu City. "King Qingguang. King Qingguang. King Qingguang." Countless calls came from the darkness, and the evil spirits called out in unison, "King Qingguang." This voice spread to every corner of the darkness, and it didn't contain any malice. It was just the evil spirits in the darkness calling out to King Qingguang. Yin Yang was like a medium, allowing the evil spirits that couldn't find the world of light to find King Qingguang. Thus, these twisted anti-life creatures called out, chanting King Qingguang's name. Every call was the evil spirits touching King Qingguang. 2 completely opposite life forms collided, and the evil spirits were twisting King Qingguang's life essence. When the distortion hit Qin Guangwang, he was struck by the boundless echoes of virtues in the darkness. Qin Guangwang was sent flying back while coughing out blood. The blood he coughed out was twisted into darkness as countless thoughts surged into his sea of consciousness. If it wasn't for the innate, inextinguishable spirit light of Grand Luo, the boundless thoughts would have twisted Qin Guangwang's life essence and turned him into a ghost. The innate spirit light guarded a thread of his soul. King Qingguang's innate spirit light was summoned out of his divine body, and in an instant, his divine body was twisted by the darkness, and only a thread of spirit light escaped. Yin Yang smiled evilly and continued to call out, "King Chujiang." The boundless archaic evil beings were like a repeater, repeatedly echoing in the darkness. "King Chujiang. King Chujiang. King Chujiang. King Qingguang. King Chujiang. King Qingguang." King Chujiang's entire body melted. An array of spirit light shot out from his mouth along with his magic power and essence. It escaped into the second palace hall, leaving behind a distorted human figure. But this time, Because of the ancient evil spirits in the darkness, they didn't call out King Chujiang's name, but King Qingguang's. Therefore, even though King Chujiang's divine body was distorted, more of his essence could escape. The ancient evil beings in the darkness were not controlled by yin and yang. The reason why they would give rise to endless echoes was because they had been sealed for too long and were too bored. Therefore, when yin and yang locked onto the world of light and the existence outside the seal, they would scramble to call out and touch its essence. Then, the two completely different states of life would distort each other. This distortion was shared among the evil spirits by countless evil spirits. It was like a greeting and wasn't threatening at all, but concentrated on one existence. This distortion was a mutation that even Dara couldn't resist. However, the evil beings were not controlled by yin and yang. Therefore, when he sent the second target back to the dark hell, a large portion of the evil beings went to greet King Chujiang to be a qualified repeater. However, there was still a portion of evil beings that were not distracted. They were still diligently greeting King Qingguang. Therefore, this kind of call was the most terrifying the first time. It immediately beat King Qingguang to the point where he could only escape with spirit light. But as more and more names were called, the previous calls would become noise interference and lower the power of this divine ability. Therefore, Yin Yang called out the third name, Song Di, Song Di, Song Di. King Qingguang. Wrong, it's Song Di. No, I want to call him King Qingguang. King Chujiang. Song Di spat out darkness 10 feet away. It was as if he had spat out his blood, bones, primordial spirit, and magic power, turning them into thick darkness. Song Di spat out half of his essence and left behind a third Yin Luo who was as thin as a match and on the verge of death, but still retained his divine body. Yin Yang saw that he couldn't even completely distort the divine body this time, so he stopped using his divine ability. If he continued calling, although he could still severely injure one Yin Luo, instead of letting the divine ability weaken and the noise increase, he might as well keep the three names and let the evil spirits in the darkness of Yudu City continue to call out and restrain the third Yin Luo. The ancient, fiendish beings in the darkness tirelessly chanted these three names. Every time they chanted, their cries would turn into thoughts that wrapped around the three Yama kings. The three of them had no choice but to try their best to dissolve those thoughts. The thoughts turned into ghosts that surrounded them, causing endless darkness to appear out of nowhere and wrap around their spiritual light. The innate, inextinguishable spiritual light kept sweeping away the darkness and dispelling the thoughts, but every time it dispelled a trace, more thoughts were transmitted from the darkness of Yudu City. Yin Yang summoned the sea-calming divine pearl, and the yin and yang eyes in the pearl shot out a five-colored light. It nailed the primordial spirit of King Dusher. King Dusher let out a strange cry and hurriedly fled into Chakravarti King's Saint Wheel. He rotated the wheel and washed away the divine light in the eyes of yin and yang. Yin Yang stared at King Bianqing again. King Bianqing wasn't afraid and didn't ask for help from Chakravarti King. Then, Yin Yang let out an evil laugh and attached himself to King Bianqing's primordial spirit. Among the countless thoughts that floated up and down in King Bianqing's mind, half of them were suddenly replaced by Yin Yang's thoughts. Half of his thoughts were quietly replaced by the thoughts of Yin and Yang. King Bianqing let out an evil laugh and said, I, Yin Yang, am going to possess you today. Bah, I am King Bianqing. No, you are Yin Yang. King Bianqing said to himself, Yes, I am Yin Yang. Then King Bianqing shouted crazily, Ah, ha ha, I'm crazy. I, King Bianqing, am Yin Yang today. You are Yin Yang. I am Yin Yang. We are all Yin Yang. Ha ha. Chapter 1330. Looking at King Bianqing, who was laughing crazily, King Dusher, who had luckily escaped the calamity, shuddered. The great formation was on the verge of collapse, and the ghosts and deities were terrified from the bottom of their hearts. Demonic tribulation. Underworld demonic tribulation. Even big shots like the 10 kings of hell couldn't escape this monstrous tribulation. Crown Prince Bo Jun's expression changed slightly. He looked at the two tall figures shrouded in divine light and said, General Mei and General Xiong, now that Underworld is in trouble and the demonic path is rampant, they even harmed King Bianqing. Are you still not going to help? Mei Tianshun said faintly, Crown Prince, it's not that we don't want to help, but Xiong Guangxian continued. But if we help, Crown Prince, you will die. Crown Prince Bo Jun was stunned. After a moment of silence, he asked, Are you saying that someone is waiting to kill me? Xiong Guangxian nodded. We heavenly generals are ordered by the heavenly court. Although Underworld is under the control of the heavenly court, it is quite independent. We have no right to intervene in Underworld affairs. Today, we came to Underworld to capture the criminal and protect Crown Prince. If we step forward and help Yin Jun resist the demonic path, it won't do us any good. What if Crown Prince is killed? Mei Tianshun said in a low voice. That will be our fault. He smiled at Crown Prince Bo Jun and said, Crown Prince, do you think there are no traces of the demonic path's demon lord hiding nearby and waiting for an opportunity to kill you in one fell swoop? Crown Prince Bo Jun looked at Zhang Jiao and saw him nod slightly. He looked up and asked, If Sect Master Zhang Jiao protects me with the Primordial 9-section staff, will the two heavenly generals have a chance to help? Underworld seems to be in danger now, but in fact, it's just because Yin Yang Demon Lord has taken advantage of the element of surprise. If the two of you help, you can immediately save the situation. Mei Tianshun cupped his hands and said, Indeed, the reason why Yinluo suffered setback was most likely because they were caught off guard by the demonic path. That Yin Yang Devil Master transformed into a primordial evil being and borrowed the power of the great hell of Yudu since ancient times. Now that the trump card of the great hell of darkness has been revealed, as long as the few of you Yama sovereigns stabilize yourselves, it won't be hard to turn defeat into victory. Crown Prince Bo Jun raised his hand and bowed. Heavenly generals, please make your move. Xiong Guangxian retorted. Aren't you worried about your own safety? Crown Prince Bo Jun said calmly. The overall situation is the most important. If the diabolism succeeds, the 10 palaces of Yinluo will suffer a calamity, and the situation of the underworld will be irreversible. The two heavenly generals will go all out against the diabolism and crush them. So what if I can protect myself? If the two heavenly generals make a move, the current balance will be broken. If the Fiend Dao doesn't want to sacrifice the Yin Yang Demon Master, they will have to save the Yin Yang Demon Master first, even if there are demon masters lying in ambush. You can't even withstand a single blow from me. One blow from Dara. With the protection of sect leader Zhang Jiao's primordial spiritual treasure, it won't be a problem to hold on until the two heavenly generals come to help. The two heavenly generals Mei and Xiong nodded and said, Since the Crown Prince is asking for help, we will make a move and help the Yin Jun. The 5th Palace's king of Yinluo slowly walked out of the main gate of Yinluo Palace. He wore a crown, with 2 sachets hanging on his ears. He wore a robe with a ruffled lapel and wide sleeves, and held a scepter in front of his chest. He stood at the entrance of the bronze gate and looked at Bai Yin Yang, who was possessing King Bianqing. He first raised the scepter to the two heavenly generals Mei and Xiong and said, Thank you for your help. Then, he said to Bai Yin Yang, who was possessing King Bianqing. Yin Yang Demon Master used the forbidden technique of 9 questions of Hades to reincarnate as a primordial evil spirit. He borrowed the power of evil in the great dark hell, which sealed the evil spirit to harm my 3 brothers, King Qingguang, King Chujiang, and Emperor Song. The River Styx demon ancestor is just a foreshadowing. He has been lying in ambush since the establishment of the underworld. His plan is indeed exquisite. It's a pity that Yin Yang Demon Master's 3 blows have exhausted the foundation of the Demon Dao in the Great Dark Hell. Now that he has possessed King Bianqing, it looks like the demonic flame is rampant, but in fact, he has used up all his means. King of Yinluo revealed a slightly stiff smile. Yin Yang Demon Master, do you still have the ability of indeterminating the illusory spirit? You seem to have taken over King Bianqing's divine body, but aren't you also trapped in King Bianqing's Yanjun's body? Previously, we really couldn't let you come and go as you please. But now, you have to suppress King Bianqing's primordial inextinguishable spirit light, and your own inextinguishable spirit light can't escape. Isn't that the same as falling into a dead end? King of Yanluo smiled and said, Yin Yang Demon Master, you have made the wrong move. King Bianqing's divine body, which was possessed by the Yin Yang Demon Master, slowly stiffened. His originally lifelike Yin spirit body turned purplish-green like iron. His body slowly expanded, his joints protruded, and even some corpse hair slowly grew on his body. He was transforming Yanluo's divine body into a demonic body. King of Yanluo, however, remained motionless. After transforming into a demonic body, King Bianqing's body would be more suitable for evil spirits to possess, and more suitable for the demon Dao's divine power. But because of this, the Yin Yang Demon Master would also become more closely integrated with the demonic body. In that case, when the Fu Yanjun and the two heavenly generals took action, they could seal the Yin Yang Demon Master's primordial ghost in King Bianqing's body. Instead, they could use the inextinguishable spirit light trapped in King Bianqing's demonic body to delay Yin Yang Demon Master, giving them time to seal the primordial ghost. This method was similar to how mortals in the world of the living dealt with evil spirits. They would take advantage of the evil spirit's possession to trap them in a living person's body, and then slowly dispose of them. It was just that the method was more complicated. King Bianqing's body swelled up bit by bit, and an inch of green hair grew on his body. His dignified face turned livid and hideous, and fangs protruded from his mouth. He looked extremely hideous and hideous. King Dusher's eyes flickered, and he attacked without the slightest hesitation. He slapped his palm, and a scene of hell was outlined on his palm. It was a mud plow great array that was hidden in his palm, and each palm was a layer of hell. Although it didn't have the crushing power of hell's projection, he wasn't afraid of the Yin Yang Demon Master taking this opportunity to infect the evil spirits and shatter hell. King Dusher was helpless. How could hell be so easily shattered? If an ordinary Dara came, even if he had the sea-calming divine pearl, an innate spiritual treasure that could evolve into the heavens, if he claimed that he could shatter hell, why not let him try? King Dusher could suppress him in hell with a flip of his hand until the world was destroyed. However, River Styx's demon ancestor was the first to lay out the plan. The darkness of Yudu City was the dwelling place of the primordial evil beings long before the establishment of Underworld, and even before Hutu established reincarnation. Evil beings were darkness, and darkness was evil beings. It had long been indistinguishable. It was incomparable to the treatment of the Blood Sea, where River Styx was the master, and the evil beings could only be experimented on. The primordial evil beings controlled the darkness of Yudu City. Later on, Queen Hutu established reincarnation. In order to prevent the evil beings from interfering with reincarnation and plundering souls, she sealed it together with the darkness. This was the Great Darkness Hell, long before the 18 layers of hell, even before reincarnation and Underworld. Therefore, the Great Darkness Hell was incomparably ancient and occupied the entire Yudu City. On the contrary, Underworld was a space established in the darkness. Yudu City was a world of boundless darkness, and Underworld was established in it. Therefore, above Underworld in all directions of Underworld, and in the deep abyss below Underworld, there was endless darkness. Darkness surrounded Underworld in all directions, and only the bridge of helplessness connected Underworld to the Netherworld outside Yudu City. Therefore, although the 18 layers of hell, which were established later on, were incomparably vast and far larger than all the heavens, compared to the Great Darkness Hell, they were like mustard seeds, a little brother. River Styx researched the nature of the primordial evil beings and created the 9 questions of the Netherworld. To the 10 halls of Yanluo, it was an extremely crazy act, and they did not understand the meaning behind it. Only now did they realize that the 9 questions of the netherworld were Underworld's fatal flaws. Just one of the questions allowed the Yin-Yang Demon Master to reincarnate into the primordial evil beings and become the poltergeist ghosts, which could activate the power of the Great Darkness Hell. The 18 layers of hell were beneath the Great Darkness Hell. If they were hidden in Underworld, with the protection of the reincarnation precepts established by Hoodoo, they would not be crushed by the Great Darkness Hell. However, if they were reckless and projected themselves, the poltergeist ghosts would devour the evil spirit's souls, and the power of the Great Darkness Hell would seep into them. In the blink of an eye, they would lose the protection of the reincarnation precepts and be crushed by the Great Darkness Hell. Previously, King Chujiang and the other 4 halls of Yanluo used the 4 layers of hell to suppress Yuanyu, and the 4 layers of hell were shattered. River Styx's scheming was the main reason why King Yanluo was afraid. Otherwise, how could hell, which had been incorporated into the reincarnation precepts, be shattered by a mere Yin-Yang Demon Master? The number of Dara suppressed in hell was more than the total number of the 10 Demon Masters of Diabolism. Of course, the ghosts and deities suppressed in the 4 layers of hell that were not devoured by the poltergeist ghosts did not escape by a fluke. Instead, they fell into the even more terrifying Great Darkness Hell. Hell shook. The 18 mud plow array in King Dusher's palm caused the entire hell to shake, transforming into hell in the palm of his hand. This palm of hell, with unparalleled power, struck towards Kuei Yin-Yang. It was equivalent to a palm transforming into hell and slapping towards Kuei Yin-Yang. Only, the palm force brushed past the great array of ghosts and deities. Countless ghosts and deities screamed and wailed as their Yin spirits left their bodies and fell into King Dusher's palm. Even the ghosts and deities who were far away from the range of the palm force could hear the wailing of countless evil spirits. Their minds were shaken and their souls became unstable, almost leaving their bodies and falling towards King Dusher's palm. King Bianqing, who was possessed by Kuei Yin-Yang, leaped up. His legs were stiff, and he jumped up horizontally like a zombie, forcibly receiving the palm. At this time, on the Mirror of Sin, a judge pen suddenly rose and fell towards Kuei Yin-Yang's head. A jade-like palm stretched out from the void and silently pressed down on Kuei Yin-Yang's back. Kuei Yin-Yang received King Dusher's palm strike. With just a slight tremble, the unparalleled power of hell was dissolved. The sea-calming divine pearl above his head shone brightly, and 5-colored rays of light resisted the judge pen. However, the judge pen only flicked a finger and fixed King Bianqing's fate. Then, the jade-like palm pressed down on the middle of King Bianqing's back. King Bianqing's whole body shook, his green hair fluttered, and the poltergeist ghost in his body let out a sharp howl. The Mirror of Sin shot out a mirror light and shone on King Bianqing's body. The mirror light reflected 2 shadows. One was King Bianqing with a solemn expression, and the other was an indescribable shadow covered in eyes. The mirror light lingered for a long time, and the strange shadow even began to divide into 2. Yuanyu, who was dressed as a young Taoist, appeared in the mirror light, looking innocently at the Yanluo people. Kuei Yin-Yang roared, and the thick darkness once again hid Yuanyu's figure. But at this time, King Yanluo, the seriously injured Emperor Song, the Judge Pen, and King Dusher attacked together and shattered the dark shadow reflected in the mirror light. Although the shadow quickly condensed again, everyone could see that after the poltergeist ghost was scattered once, the shadow was no longer as solid as before. Generals, send Master Yin-Yang Demon Lord off. Imperial Prince Bo-Jun revealed a victorious smile. The plum and bear heavenly generals glanced at each other and attacked in horror. A divine light tore the darkness around King Bianqing and almost shattered the iron bones of his demon body. Among the 10 Yanluo palaces, King Qingguang of the 1st Palace, King Yanluo of the 5th Palace, and King Chakra of the 6th Palace were far stronger than their peers. Each of them had a primordial spiritual treasure. King Qingguang's Mirror of Sin, King Yanluo's home viewing platform, and Chakra King's forgetting platform. In addition, they also had a companion spiritual treasure formed by their own spirit light, King Qingguang's Judge Brush, King Yinluo's Seal of King Yinluo, and Chakra King Saint Wheel. The companion spiritual treasure was equivalent to Dara's other body. After the body of the innate, inextinguishable spirit light was shattered, the innate, inextinguishable spirit light escaped into the companion spiritual treasure. It was equivalent to Dara existing in the body of the treasure and could attack at any time. Moreover, the innate, inextinguishable spirit light was far stronger than Dara's body. It was the other body of Dara, second only to the chaotic God-Fiend body. Therefore, when King Chujiang and King Qingguang's bodies were destroyed, King Qingguang could escape the innate, inextinguishable spirit light into the companion spiritual treasure and borrow the body of the treasure to fight again, while King Chujiang could only return to the second palace to recuperate. King Qingguang, who had transformed into the innate, inextinguishable spirit light, was in a state of full strength. It was several times stronger than before. The darkness formed by the yin and yang had already withered a little, which made Xue Tu King and Ajati sad. The yin and yang demon ancestor was tricked by King Yinluo and trapped in King Bianqing's body. The bronze mirror on the mirror of sin has also locked onto his true body. I'm afraid he can't hold on any longer. King Taishan hasn't made a move yet, and Chakra King is focused on protecting the underworld. But now, Seven Yin Jun have joined hands with two heavenly generals of the heavenly court. If Yin Yang Demon Master wasn't a primordial evil being, he would have been torn apart. But even so, he will be at his limit. Primordial evil beings aren't invincible. Once he is trapped in a body, he will be half crippled. Even Zhang Jiao couldn't help but sigh. Yin Yang Demon Master fought against the 10 Yinluo palaces alone, and two heavenly generals destroyed the bodies of King Qingguang and King Chujiang. King Chujiang only escaped with the innate, inextinguishable spirit light, severely injured Emperor Song, and possessed King Bianqing. He fought against the other Yin Jun heavenly generals, and even though he lost, he was still honorable. As expected of the Demon Master. Lamentable, lamentable. Gue Yinyang barely managed to tear through the mirror light, and with a roar he smashed his fists towards the divine light of Mei Xiong and the other two heavenly generals. King Yama once again pressed his palm on his chest, and this time the imperial robe on King Bianqing's body exploded, revealing his ashen chest. Who else want to fight me? Chui Yinyang laughed and said, since Yin Luo doesn't care about his face and the shameless heavenly generals besieged me, I, Chui Yinyang, will take on all of you. Who else wants to fight me? I'll take on all of you. You have no chance, King Yinluo said calmly. Next, my brothers and I will join hands to summon the remaining 14 levels of hell. I will use the viewing platform to suppress your innate, inextinguishable spirit light and the body of a starved ghost, trapping them in King Bianqing's body so that you can't taint hell. Then, I will suppress King Bianqing's body under the 18 levels of hell, never to be reincarnated. In the mirror light of the mirror of sin, King Bianqing's inextinguishable spirit light quickly said, what about me? Fifth brother. King Yinluo smiled and said, when the conspiracy of the demonic path is destroyed, King Qingguang and I will join hands to cast the mirror of sin and save your inextinguishable spirit light. And that evil thing will be trapped in your body, imprisoned until the end of the world. Behind King Yinluo, the projections of the 18 levels of hell appeared one by one. Apart from the 4 levels that had collapsed, there was the hell of the wrong that had turned into the city of the wronged, the hell of the wrong that looked like a sea of blood, the hell of the blood pool that looked like a sea of blood in the netherworld, the hell of the heat that looked like a mountain of blades and a sea of fire, the hell of the heart-piercing, the hell of the flaying, and so on, in the 18 levels of hell, even the hell of the cold ice, the scorching flame, the black rope, and the iron city that had collapsed were projected by King Yinluo. King Yinluo smiled and said, Yin Yang Demon Master, you have caused trouble in the underworld, resisted Yinluo, and rebelled against the heavenly court. You are truly heinous. You deserve endless suffering. Fall into the Avicii hell forever. The Avicii hell is the lowest of the 18 levels of hell. But the true Avicii hell is the sum total of the 18 levels of hell. Countless evil spirits and evil gods are suppressed in it, and there is no lack of people like Dara, Yin Yang Demon Master. You deserve to fall into the Avicii hell forever. The Yin Yang Demon Master was surrounded by 2 heavenly generals and 6 Yenluo. He kept shattering their world-shaking divine powers. Just as he blocked the full-powered attack of 1 Yenluo, 4 or 5 Yenluo heavenly generals immediately followed up. He kept getting injured and fought crazily. He kept laughing without fear. The village viewing platform suddenly descended from the void and suppressed Emperor Song's beer. A few Yenluo took the opportunity to trap him. The Shuetu king could not help but shout, "You're going too far? The Sky Fiend Down Master is here. How can we watch you attack the Yin Yang Demon Master?" Then he looked back and saw the Monkey King squatting there, watching the show leisurely. The Yenluo king laughed. "Stop watching, Demon Lord. The true body of your Sky Fiend Down Master is still fighting against Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva in the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Why else would I wait until now to attack? Why else would Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva remain silent when the Yin Yang Demon Master destroyed hell and committed heinous sins?" The Shuetu king was silent. He sighed and smiled bitterly as he looked at the countless ghosts and immortals surrounding him. They cannot even protect themselves, so how could they help Yuan Yu? The apparition of the 18 levels of hell was about to fall. Just before the eternal fall of Avicii, Kuei Yinyang suddenly revealed an extremely confident expression. He no longer resisted the joint suppression of the few Yenluo kings and the 2 heavenly generals, as if he had given up, but also as if everything was under control. He smiled indifferently. "Finally, you've finally fallen for it. Ha ha!" Kuei Yinyang laughed wildly. He finally fell for it. King Bianqing roared at the sky, and endless darkness gushed out of his mouth. Countless starved ghosts gushed out of his body and instantly took over the countless evil ghosts in hell. The 18 levels of hell were all dyed in darkness. The Yenluo king said in disbelief, "Impossible! Your innate, inextinguishable spiritual light is entangled with King Bianqing, so it's impossible for you to escape. If the one suppressing King Bianqing is not you, then who is it?" King Bianqing revealed a twisted smile. "Of course it's me. The one controlling King Bianqing's divine body has always been me. Although Kuei Yinyang suppressed King Bianqing's innate, inextinguishable spiritual light, he did not control this body. He only locked King Bianqing's thoughts and turned this divine body into a corpse. Then, King Bianqing rubbed a tuft of green hair off his body, opened his mouth, and blew it. The green hair fluttered and scattered in all directions. It's me, the corpse demon Down Master, who has tainted this body and descended. It was a heaven-defying evil thing formed from the inauspicious and Dara essence in the depths of hell. It was the green hair of the corpse demon Down Master. After Yuan Yu transformed into Kuei Yinyang, he seized King Bianqing's divine body. However, Kuei Yinyang only suppressed King Bianqing's thoughts and did not control his body. He placed the green hair of the corpse demon Down Master that Yuan Yu had secretly rubbed off into King Bianqing's divine body. This allowed the corpse demon Down Master to use his own corpse hair to transform King Bianqing's divine body into a demon body. Then, with the help of King Bianqing's divine body, he refined the Yenluo demon corpse and descended upon it. The corpse demon Down Master turned into green hair and tainted this divine body under the eyes of the Yenluo people, then descended upon the underworld. From beginning to end, Kuei Yinyang only suppressed King Bianqing's innate, inextinguishable spiritual light until the corpse demon Down Master used the law of reincarnation to sneak into this demon body. Kuei Yinyang then let the corpse demon Down Master suppress King Bianqing's innate, inextinguishable spiritual light while he hid and waited for an opportunity, waiting for the opportunity to locate the remaining 14 levels of hell. Finally, Just as he had expected, the King Yinluo of Hell made use of Hell. Darkness attacked Hell from the inside. The 18 levels of Hell were locked down by the omnipresent darkness, and the entire great darkness heaven came crashing down. In addition, Kuei Inyang devoured countless evil spirits in Hell and materialized the laws of Hell. He became the Lord of Hell. Laughing maniacally, Kuei Inyang used his status as the Lord of Hell to attract the power of the great darkness Hell. The 18 levels of Hell were destroyed and devoured by the great darkness Hell. After the 18 levels of Hell were destroyed, the Avicii Hell fell into Kuei Inyang's hands. At this time, Kuei Inyang slashed out an incredible sword light from the great darkness Hell. The sword light transformed from the Avicii Hell was the seamless sword light. The seamless one had no time, no life, no body, no pleasure, and no suffering. Destroy the 18 levels of Hell, Avicii sword light. An indescribable and incredible sword light with boundless killing intent slashed out from a void. The sword transformed into the Avicii Hell. Ghosts and gods fell together, and the countless ghosts and gods that formed the Great Formation and the elite celestial soldiers couldn't help but fall into the sword light and into the seamless Hell. In a flash, countless ghosts and gods were slain, and it reached Yinluo of the 10 halls. The two celestial generals, Mei Xiong and Mei Xiong, roared and used all their strength. Their supreme divine weapons forged by the heavenly court touched the edge of the Avicii sword light, and their bodies were almost cut in half at the waist. They fought with their lives to preserve their bodies. King Qin Guangwang's judge, Pen, was wrapped up by Avicii's sword light and was almost heavily injured. The Mirror of Sin was on the verge of collapse, and the bronze mirror on it was knocked off the stage. King Yinluo suppressed King Bianqing, and the homecoming platform, which was now the Path Lord of Corpse Demon, was struck down by the sword light and fell into the darkness. The heavily injured Emperor Song turned into ashes without a sound, and his innate, inextinguishable spiritual light fell into the Avicii Hell. King Yinluo, King Dushi, King Pingding, and King Wuwan, except for King Taishan, who didn't attack, and King Chakravarti, who protected the underworld from being crushed by the great darkness Hell. All the other Yinjun were heavily injured by the sword light. The Path Lord of Corpse Demon attacked and suppressed King Qin Guangwang's judge Pen. Under the Avicii sword light, all the 10 halls Yinluo were heavily injured, and Emperor Song and the homecoming platform were suppressed. 3 figures slowly walked out of the seamless Hell in the Avicii sword light. Prince Xinmo, Lord Enmo, demon-slaying sword master, together with Yuan Yu, the Enyang demon lord, and the Path Lord of Corpse Demon who possessed King Bianqing. The 5 vice-sect lords of the Demon Dao arrived at Yudu City and descended upon the underworld.